pressing tweet it out.
You got to tweet it out.
Telegram, and automatically I did it. All right.
Whoa! Gaslight girl boss. There you go.
2 weeks to the Digital Archipelago. Wait,
it's only been a week.
It's only been a week, but
calm down, people.
There you go. All right, man. Wow. People are anticipating our week-long return.
Oh yeah, a week-long hiatus. We're back, kids. Complicated stuff, complicated business.
What a week!
Trying to keep you waiting.
What a week!
Yeah, what a last couple weeks has it been?
I was debating if it was a blessing in disguise that you had car trouble, because I think if we would have went on that Thursday, maybe we would have
all started.
We would have said some really imprudent stuff. So, we might still say some really imprudent stuff. So,
like I said on Semiagogs,
Zio means something different. Louis Cachet in Italian. Zio means uncle in Italian, but I know what he. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Anyways,
chat's gonna be a shit show. Welcome, kids.
This is the Digital Archipelago, episode 63. Please do not Fed post too hard in the chat. But anyways, this is really me and Prude were talking in the in the green room, the real impossibility of trying to talk about this topic. But we'll try to get to. But you were saying something, Prude?
I was saying, I told Semiagog on our sort of reaction stream as the conflict of sorts broke out. When you react to these things, your takes are either going to age like milk or they're going to age like wine. And really, there's not much to it that you can really do about it. I mean, if you're good, you'll be fine. You have a general background of understanding where you can hedge your bets and stuff. But, sometimes it's all out there. My take on it has been published already on Substack, on the Prudentialist.substack.com. Marshall McLuhan's war. Go ahead and read that after the show. Not just to casually shill, but we're in a war of infographics, tribes, and we're all, negging one another to make sure we have the appropriate takes. And, we're already fighting an information war. It's this, guys, February of 2022, the war began in Ukraine. We saw the same deluge of old footage, digitally altered footage.
The same spectacles.
Stable diffusion images. We saw Arma 3 military simulation game footage. And we saw, baseless claims and accusations from people who weren't even on the ground.
And mythopoetic narratives like Ghost of Key.
Yeah, and the same thing is going to happen with this conflict.
There's a girl boss IDF soldier story. Did you see that one?
No, I did not.
She tapped what was it? She went in her pajamas and grabbed her service bullpup. Do they still have the bullpup, the TAR 15 or what's it called?
I'm pretty sure.
Is that what the IDF uses? She grabbed her service rifle and murked, the evil Hamas. But there's always stories like this,
we had our same sort of, what was her name? Jessica Lynch at the beginning of the war in Iraq. She was like a POW, but she took down a bunch of guys. She was like a G.I. Jane character. And then the truth came out that a lot of that was a lie. And now Jessica Lynch is somewhere in the South teaching 4th grade, last I heard. And she's 39 or 40 something years old now. So she's let her be. But these stories are going to be the case. And ask her. We're gonna just drop it and get it done here out of the way now. I guess. I'll give some of my thoughts initially. It's been more interesting to see the domestic reaction than it has been what's going on over there. In part because there's such an overwhelming representation of these individuals in the United States, academia, the press, politics, etc. Read Stephen Walt and John Shea Mearsheimer's 2007 lobby if you're interested. That stuff has aged pretty well. But what I've noticed has been, of course, the academia side of it, where there have been countless pro-Hamas or pro-Palestine, a lot of this decolonization talk, which has its own issues, and I'll get into that in a second. The big thing, of course, is noticing that a lot of American Jewish individuals, academics, journalists, etc., are getting really uncomfortable. They've noticed that, oh, wow, there's a lot of these pro-Hamas, these pro-Palestine protests, what do we do? Even high schools are in sort of the no justice, no peace mentality. And it really is a repeat of, Norman Podhoretz's 1963 essay, my Negro problem and ours. Now, Norman Potterhertz, or Potteretz.
Can we say that on YouTube?
It's perfectly fine.
Okay.
It's a well-known essay, very famous in commentary magazine.
No, but the end, that
yeah,
version.
you're fine. You're fine. Anyway, so what he's talking about, of course, is sort of the racial relationship between Jewish Americans and Black Americans. There's a really tense relationship. Murray Friedman talked about it in his 1995 book, What Went Wrong. I've covered that. It's on Odyssey. Me and Dimes from Blood Satellite have over 6 hours of conversation on that book. It's really interesting.
And keep in mind, these are people of this particular diaspora ethnicity.
Yeah. And I mean, pro American Jewish Congress, pro ADL, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
But they're witnessing these things. And so Potteretz is like, well, what do we do? Potteretz later becomes a rather famous neoconservative. He goes all in for Trump later in his life. I mean, I think he died only recently. His son was a speechwriter for George H.W. Bush and Ronald Reagan. And it took a war in Israel for his son, Jason Potteretz, to come back to Twitter. But neither here nor there. And so you're witnessing these guys like don't know what to do because they're overwhelmingly leftist. According to a recent poll back in June of 2023, Biden leads Trump in the Jewish vote 72 to 22%, with some in between, I don't know, third-party candidates. And, they don't know what to do about it because on one hand, the left in these institutions are their things to control. But at the same time, you have all these sort of diasporic coalitions of progressive whites, blacks, Asians, Middle Easterners, etc., that are also full on. I guess it's sort of like the Schrodinger's minority thing. We're white, and some people view us as white, i.e. Jews, and others are like, well, no, they're Jewish, and then there's white people. So that game gets played quite often linguistically. And when that happens, we're witnessing a lot of this, oh man, what do we do? I mean, we're still leftists, but the left are crazy. And most of these people aren't ever going to do the left me type deal. And I mean, if they do, they become the Dave Rubins and Ben Shapiro's of the world. We know how this works. We've seen it before.
Well, apparently Jonathan Greenblatt of the ADL has gone full pro-Israel to the point where I've seen secular people of that ethnicity critiquing him on the far progressive, radical left in North America. I was lurking some of these leftoid activist accounts, and it's funny how they're actually critiquing him over this.
Oh yeah, I mean there was even the Ben Shapiro tweet criticizing Jews that wanted ceasefires, and it was like, different. Even the diaspora's got its internal infighting. Like it does illustrate that the mythical monolithic, power of this one group is not as monolithic as it once stands. Although it still has a significant amount of overrepresentation in American politics and affairs. That's unquestioned.
That's what I mean. I think that Amy Therese, she got heat for saying that
that voice just irks me, but go on. I heard it once on Night Owls and I was like, yep, we can never listen to you again.
She has a very good voice. I don't know why you don't like her voice, but it's
the same reason why I don't like British and Australian and New Zealand accents. Great on men. Women, what the hell is this?
Well,
maybe it's my American upbringing and my exposure to foreign accents abroad, but it's my least favorite.
I've watched too much Australian daytime television soap operas.
Not my cup of tea, mate.
But no, so she was criticized for saying that, to American people of the diaspora, and please sneed those super chats if you want these hot takes, because I fear that this stream might be demonetized. She said that, that basically it's like F you dad, the way that American leftists in America are like F you dad, or the way that atheists are like F you mom and dad for being Christians. So it's like, I
There's
feel
a lot of that, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like most politics on the progressive left is like F you dad. But the point being is that it was something that T77 said on Quinones' show that I believe is not on YouTube for obvious reasons. That nobody really, outside of American boomers and people in power, from the left and of course from the right, for different reasons, of course, nobody kind of really does like that nation in the Middle East. You know what I mean? But the reason I bring this up is because there is a crisis in terms of support for Israel.
Well, that's what I mean. Is not to interrupt, but the usual.
You're gonna break out your American spirit, Prude?
In a minute, but it's the same problem that comes.
Then I'll wait for you.
Just go ahead and light up, man.
No, I want to wait for you. We got to do it together.
It's the same problem that exists with respects to like, well, it's like the left having the labor problem in the UK. Like, oh, the left has an anti-Semitism problem. Well, you've programmed a group of people on anti-colonialism, anti-whiteness, and I don't know how many of these academics. And we already saw one of the ADL people that worked for them get caught up in all these, protests that were pro-Palestine, pro-decolonization. So it's more of a like, well, this is clearly an act of like, white colonial hegemonic oppression.
Right. They coded as a white nation.
It's coded. It's coded in a white way. And so even if you're like woke on the JQ, or you have a particular interest to see like, all the way to the sea, right? Which I think is a phrase that some
that's the Arab version of being woke.
Which I think actually the British government wants to like criminalize, or it was the German government, one of those two.
The British and the French government wants to kick out any migrant that is overtly anti-Semitic. So,
oh man, if only they did that for their own people.
Right.
But alas, here we are. But
that's what I mean. I think the problem is, like, to interrupt you, is the problem is it's like how, for example, there are people like absolutely don't like that Douglas Murray guy, where it's like, okay, or even like Milo did this back in the day, where it's like, okay, let's kick out the migrants, but because they hate Western values. What is Western values? Gay marriage, liberalism. It's like, don't kick them out because we're defending, our, like, especially in Europe, where it's very evident in terms of like European countries and the nationality of those people and the race and the integrity of their heritage and so forth. So it's like, don't kick them out. Kick them out because they hate gay marriage. It's like, that's kind of like a semantic fucking in a way. You know what I mean? Like, we got to kick them out because they're anti-Semitic, not because of all the other crimes that they've committed, and because of like, the fact that these little European nations, they can't demographically, even like economically sustain them in terms of, exactly. It's conceptual cucking, really. So, but sorry, go ahead, Brew. My point was that in terms of the support for Israel, I think like the people in Israel, they know that younger American diaspora people, that's the thing my grandparents cared about. It's not what I care about. I care about BLM. I care about progressive causes. I mean, not all of them. Of course, there are some right-wing, people that do vote for Trump. Only 20% from what you posted.
Yeah, that poll.
That poll, about 75%
from Times of Israel. So it's kind of straight.
They're going to vote. Yeah, they're going to vote for Biden. So, go ahead, Brew. Go ahead.
Yeah,
that's my point.
No, it's a good point, because like the thing that also comes out with it is that unlike in 1963, where Norman Podhoretz is writing My Negro Problem and Ours, the country is a lot more diverse. It's a lot browner,
way more diverse.
And so I don't think you can keep that chain linguistically, rhetorically.
You know what diverse meant in the 1960s in America? I mean, there were a lot of Hispanics.
Well, I mean, back in the 1960s and 50s.
I mean, it meant us Italians. That would
academic. Well, I said this the other day. I said, academic freedom in the 1950s and 60s was like to let commies speak on college campuses. Things have totally changed. But like, so America's a lot diverse. It's a lot more brown. It's a lot less white. And so you have a lot of groups that don't have, one, a historical or a political knee-jerk reaction to white guilt or World War II narratives. They don't have the same knee-jerk reaction when it comes to the minority relationship, because a lot of them also have a minority perception of things. They have that sort of minority chip on their shoulders, the ordeal of civility, as John Murray Cudahy would famously write about.
But also, like, what you were saying is that... Oh, sorry, I cut you off. You go ahead.
No, just to wrap it up real quickly. Like, we saw that poll from CNN that the younger generations don't have as much support. I would love to see the breakdown of that poll, because I would like to see it broken down on race. But America, as it's gotten, as the younger generations are more diverse and they're less white, like that position isn't going to be there. And like I remember very distinctly, and I'm going to have to look it up and find it. But when Biden first got into office, he had a talk with like black leaders, and he was speaking to like Al Sharpton and all of them. And he was like, look, white guy ain't going to be in charge forever. He's not going to be the majority of the country anymore. You're going to have to one day learn to play nice with other minority groups. And
when the rhetoric of a lot of them is intra-Hamwe Hutu radio, like even in academia,
Yeah.
you have people saying like, whiteness is a cancer and blah blah blah.
Yeah,
So I mean, and we
you
all
have
know
you
this.
got
This is
that.
not Telegram. This is Telegram
Yeah.
talking points, but it's true.
But like you got that from
Yeah.
like black nationalists, like and black
Yeah.
academics, and then you also get that from like Noah Ignatieff, like whiteness is a cancer. So like they kind of agree that like whitey's the enemy, but at the same time, like they also butt heads against one another. So you notice that like BLM is like pro-Hamas, pro-Palestine, and so you're having the Andrew Young affair play out in broad daylight right in front of everybody, and everyone's just like, yikes, like it's sort of that awkward, like, ugh, it gives them the ick.
But I think that when it comes to anti-Semitism, what is happening now is sort of a semantic shift or lowering, in my estimation. In the sense, what do I mean by semantic lowering? I mean that to the progressive left that is much more quote unquote diverse, anti-Semitism is, like you were saying, a lower priority, but it's basically just something that reactionary right-wing white nationalists believe in, and therefore it's bad and evil. So it's like every other form of hatred. Yeah. Transphobia is probably more higher on the priority list for a lot of activists, or anti-black hatred is probably way higher in America than anti-Semitism, because like you were saying, that because we come from a European descent, there is a sort of awareness of like, that is like the legacy, that is the theological position of the post-World War. And therefore, we have this particular understanding. But people coming from the global South do not have that.
No.
They don't have that same consciousness. And I think like when it comes to like modern day Antifa politics, anti-Semitism is really just a shelling point against the right. But when it comes to Israel, it's like that is an extension of American white supremacy worldwide. I mean, the G is not like a white. It's here's the thing. I've lurked a lot of leftoid and Antifa people, and they have this delusion that the GAE is like this. I mean, I use the word neoliberal, but I think neoliberalism is still like a terribly abused word. But they have this illusion that like America is like spreading global whiteness in the negative academic sense, like America is a white supremacist neoliberal empire, when in reality we know that like the base of Heritage America, even like to us European Ellis Islanders, like we're the ones that we're consciously being lowered in importance, to say the least, without getting into like the real details. That's like a shocking underestimation of like what's actually going on. Like basically, I mean, let's all of the we can spend all day talking about the ways in which people of European descent are being not just derided, but even like predicated upon by the empire. It's very much a self-annihilating empire, which is really unique in human history. Like even the British and the Romans and the Greeks and the Sumars, like they had their own, they cared about their own people, right? Put it that way. The British Empire to near the end, I mean, that's arguable, right?
I mean, the British Empire at least had a mercantilist system where capital came back to Britain.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is what this is the thing that like even Bill Williams criticized in America is like, once you stopped doing the selling surplus services and manufacturing goods that would help, keep Americans employed, your empire stops working. Like what purpose did like colonize? Like we didn't colonize Vietnam. We didn't colonize South Korea. No. Some would say, yes, we did later on through like capital and techno-capital.
We set up a temporary carceral state that did not benefit Americans nor those people.
You have a satrapy for an alliance thing with some bases there to act as a strategic tripwire against China and the North Koreans. Great. But however, what amount of that money is coming back to us? I mean, this is the whole point that like Trump was making. Like we have trade deficits out the ass. We've killed the Rust Belt's the Rust
These
Belt.
deals in China were very bad.
Yeah, the worst business deal I've ever seen. Like all that sort of jazz. And so, Bill Williams, even back in the 70s and 80s, is just like, what the fuck are we doing? This is unsustainable. And the same thing is happening now. I mean, I wonder if BAP got his critique of globalism from Bill Williams, because they're basically saying like, globalism doesn't support the home country. So what the hell's the point of having like a global empire if you can't even benefit your own native citizens?
Even Logo Atlas said that back in the day. Like, why can't we have made it like a tourist resort in Afghanistan?
Oh, I mean, even like Twitter account, like he's more of those like noticer race realist guys, plantation scientist. He was just all like,
oh, he's a great account.
yeah, I follow him as well.
I don't listen. I don't endorse everything.
Not everything I follow is an
yeah.
endorsement, but some of the stuff's interesting. But he's just like, if you're really like, if you were wanting to criticize the American empire, he's just like, imagine if you you conquered Saudi Arabia, and it was just like now Saudi Arabia is just like American standard. And you got like a $500 check every time that we sold a barrel of oil across the globe, or that you had a tourist resort in Korea that you could go to for cheap. Like that doesn't exist because America doesn't act like an actual empire. It acts like a disgusting. I'm trying to avoid other words, but I mean, like, there's sort of this whole instance here domestically at home with the diaspora and various ethnic groups that are pro-Palestine, very viewing things anti-colonially.
Very much is like the spider, like the tarantula and the turtle problem with the political left. But
yeah, it's the frog and the scorpion.
It's frog and the scorpion, not tarantula and the
turtle.
Frog and the scorpion.
Lamau even said the scorpion.
But my point being is that I think like there's a fundamental disconnect in terms of discourse between like what the political left thinks the American empire is and what us in the political right think the American empire is, that's basically shredding its base of people that built American society and even like Western European, home. That's what I mean. Like, I mean, if you want to talk about the West in general, it's very much run by the Americans. But to get my basic point out of the way, like, I understand the discourse around like Palestine, but this is so hard to talk about, man. I'm generally more pro-Palestinian in this regard, and I think like there's a way to do that without devolving into like invoking leftist terminology of decolonization and so forth. But the reality is they are an occupied people, you know what I mean? So that's just a brute force reality that however you feel about minorities and so forth and how they hate us equally the same. Now, I think like, do the Palestinian activists in the diaspora in the West, they hate us? Yes. But Palestinians there, I think they hate us by extension of us supporting Israel. If that makes sense, Prude. You know what I mean? Like I think like when it comes to like the Western diaspora, like it's very clear that immigration is a huge problem for everybody. But now that it's biting the political left in the ass, it's like, or a certain subsection of the political left, it's like now they're like, we got to kick them out. So I understand like the right wing, the E-right has this thing about like you're using base minorities against a greater evil, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, like, I mean, the thing it's horrific the way these people are being treated.
Yeah.
And that's not to say we support the other, we don't support terrorism or whatever, because what happened there was evil as well. But I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, proportionally, who has the greater resources in this conflict? Who has the greater ability to influence the foreign policy of the world to come and help them? I mean, yeah, there's a lot of support for Palestine, obviously. But at the end of the day, like, when you're talking about like removing all of those people from their, it's like, it's monstrous. It's monstrous. So you go ahead, Prude. Maybe I'm just left slurring. I don't know.
The size of the Gaza Strip is 140 square miles. Whereas, let's take a look. Size of Manhattan.
Yeah. Well, I'll say one more thing. Is that
okay? So it is larger than Manhattan, but I mean, 140 square miles is the equivalent of that. Let's see here.
Is it bigger than like Delaware?
Let's take a look at Rhode Island real quick.
I think it's like Rhode Island. Yeah.
1,545. So no, even smaller. I mean, even bigger. So it's smaller than Rhode Island. It's an incredibly small strip of areas. And you've got 2 million people living there as of 2020. And so, yeah, like it's sort of continued occupation. You have an ethnic conflict that has been raging since the settlers of those people have been there since 1948. It's an ethnic race war for extermination. Like in no unclear terms. And this is what it is. America shouldn't be funding this, obviously. No. If my tax dollars didn't go just giving $3.5 billion a year to this, to the Israeli state, how how Israel would manage and hold its own. I do not know.
Oh, here come Phil. Oh, no.
Here's a report from Axios that said the U.S. is going to send tens of thousands of artillery shells that were initially designated for Ukraine. So I guess Zelensky is going by the wayside.
Right.
I was thinking about. I was talking to Morgoth earlier, and I won't give his side of the. I said, imagine the poem Ozymandias by Bryce Shelley, and it was just those two legs that instead of Ozymandias, kings of kings, look upon ye works, ye mighty in despair, and nothing else remained. It was just a statue of Zelensky. Because okay, we've dumped one. And that's another thing too, is that they're like.
Well, what's Morgoth's position? Is he more pro-Palestinian, or is he?
I sent him a poem, and I said I think that you could make a good essay out of this. That's all that it was about. I don't try to divulge conversations I have with people privately, but I just said I think that would be an interesting take, looking at this turn of the the 19th century poetry, and look at how it applies to today. Because there's a poem called 1812 or 1811 that's about sort of this kind of post-apocalyptic poem of Britain, and it's criticizing Britain's role in the Napoleonic Wars. And I said that you probably could take something out of that and make it a really good essay, because Morgoth's the king of essayists, in my opinion, in that respect. But the to get to the point though was just that I don't want America to be giving these people money. But
it's inevitable, though.
But it's inevitable. And so, and this goes back to what I said. This goes back to what I said in my essay yesterday, called Marshall McLuhan's War, where it's just because so much of our news is parapolitical and parasocial, you want to get your takes from people that share your opinions on these issues. And I even said, listen, if you're woke on these questions, you can go to Keith Woods. If you want to turn the Gaza Strip into glass, you can go follow anyone who reiterates. Follow
the mainstream media, Ben Shapiro, go to Fox News.
I said Senator Lindsey Graham, but those are the things that are applicable here. So our news takes are parapolitical, parasocial, because we're public entities, because we're these. To borrow from Marshall McLuhan, we're not just contestants on a game show, we're the game show hosts. We have to have positions, we have to have takes, even if we're uninformed on them.
Breadcrumbs, see, I noticed my friend Philip Daniels in the chat, and me and Philip, we respectfully disagree on this issue. I don't support Hamas, obviously. I don't support terrorism, but I think that yes, we shouldn't pick a side, but I lean towards Palestine because I do think that what's happening to them is a travesty. But also, I explained this to my old man, and he got this, because you got to realize my old man is still, a later boomer, and by imbibing conservative media. But then I got through to him. I said, well, think of it this way, because the talking point was always that why can't Jordan and the Egyptians and all these other Arab nations take them and help them? I say, you have to realize, geopolitically, though, to these other Arab nations, how would that look? Because it would basically do the job of Israel for them, in that you were participating in a removal of people from a land that wasn't contested in the 40s, and that basically Israel thinks it's theirs. And it's, how would that look to the other Arab nations? That's the problem, right? So why would you let them into Sinai? Oh, but it's humanitarian because they're going to bomb them. It's well, okay. So you're creating a terror bombing campaign, and you're saying they should go to the Sinai, and the other Arab nations have to let them in. But it's how would that look? If the contention was that these people in Palestine have a right to their own strip of land, you know what I mean? And my old man's yeah, that kind of is the point. It does look bad if you were an Egyptian politician, if you were in Jordan, if you were in Iran or Iraq. It's why would you go along with that, right? Because the neocon talking point was always, how come they can't accept those people? Just let Israel have what they want. It's like the settlements. It's like the West Bank. It's how much is enough at the end of the day? You know what I mean? These people, in some of the footage of them getting kicked out of their homes, it's terrible, right? So me and Philip Daniel, okay, Philip, the reality is that Israel isn't going anywhere anytime soon.
Nope.
But when it comes to the territories, when it comes to Gaza, when it comes to the West Bank, it's like they make it really, really hard to support them geopolitically. I'm trying to be nice here. It's like, because if what I want to actually say, I probably can't say for YouTube, but like, it's like it makes him incredibly difficult to sympathize, and so maybe the don't take sides is like the best option. Because reality is that either way, control is out of the hands of us and out of ordinary people in the West, in America, here in Canada, and I think that the humanitarian crisis that's going to be created either way is going to be abominable, and it will just lead to more immigration to the West. It will just
more God's law still applies no matter what happens. Whether they turn the Gaza Strip into glass or the rest of the Arab world gets a repeat of 1973 or the 6-Day War or whatever,
right.
There's still going to be a bunch of Levantines and Middle Easterners coming into Europe and America. And we already saw the most decrepit, ugly shit come out of Nikki Haley's mouth saying, let's take them all on in.
Yeah.
As if every time that's ever happened, as we've seen in Europe and as we've seen in America and as we've especially seen in Minneapolis, oh man, look at that. More crime, more, Islamification. Like, I hate the fact that we've also gone back to global war on terror talking points.
Yeah.
Like, welcome, guys.
The aesthetics of it. The aesthetics of it is
2003 all over again.
Where they have like the insurgent videos with the masks and like the AKs and the we have all that now. No, but Philip Daniel did bring up a good point that I will agree with him on, is that he's like, yeah, Gio, you're talking about the Palestinians, but you realize that they don't like the Christians in the area either.
Nope.
And it's like, yeah, from a Christian perspective, Hamas and the Israelis do not like the Christians. So I agree, right? So if I have to look at the interests of my fellow, and even though I'm not Orthodox or Maronite, at the end of the day, I mean, I don't want to, unless Jay Dyer is listening to this. I have nothing against Jay Dyer, by the way. I think he's a good guy. But in case he's listening, I'm not being ecumenical, okay? I'm not. This is not ecumenicalism, but I have a lot of favorable opinions towards the Orthodox and the Maronites and the Coptic Church. I consider them, we're kind of like kissing cousins. You know what I mean? Not brothers. I know that. I'm trying to avoid ecumenicalism. Okay, Prude. I'm sorry. But no, I have a great fondness for the Orthodox and for the Coptics and the Maronites. So I think that I have to look at the interests of my fellow Christians in the region. And I do agree that both sides do not serve their interests, right? And there's this thing that like American normicon, like Protestants, they do this thing about, well, the Christians are treated better in Israel, right? I go, really?
In what world?
In what world, right?
You're like, yes. There are still there is some nominal.
Okay, yes, I agree. The Maronites are Catholic, but they're kind of Catholic, but it's complicated.
They're in communion with Rome. They're
in communion
Catholic.
with Rome, right? And even though the Orthodox are not in communion with Rome, I still think that they are our spiritual brethren. And
I like how every like evangelical that goes to Jerusalem or any other parts of Israel, they get like the I guess like the Jewish equivalent of Paris syndrome. They're like, oh man, they really hate us. Yeah, did you read the Bible?
You kind of do, yeah.
Oh man, did you read the Gospels? Did you read like the Apocalypse according to John? Like really? Oh man, yeah, it's an ancient custom where they spit on you. Yes, it is.
The best is when American evangelicals, they go to the Wailing Wall and they kiss the wall.
I don't understand. Like where? Where's that?
Now you know who does have.
Riddle me this, Sola Scriptura. Where's that?
You know what Muslim group? There is a Muslim group in Lebanon that actually does look favorably upon the Christian. But let's probably not mention that angle of it. But
neither here nor there. Like
neither here nor there. Yeah.
The media blitz about all this too. Like it's the same reason why I haven't covered like the Ukraine war day by day for the last year.
Well, let me just say one last thing, Prude.
Go ahead.
The American evangelicals do not code those Orthodox or Coptic people as Christians.
No, they don't.
The way that they are.
No, they don't.
It's all comes down to aesthetics. So, anyways, go ahead.
It's like again, we're getting a repeat of the opening days of the war in Ukraine. We're not going to know everything. I mean, for those who were involved and are Christians, like with the the claim over that the church in Gaza that was allegedly bombed. Thank God that it wasn't, and they're helping people. And
everywhere around the church was bombed.
Yeah, everywhere around the church
still stood.
Yeah. Take that.
What does that say, Prude?
Take that, Jews. But like, you know, it's going to be really hard to discern what's coming out of it and what's real. Things are moving faster at 1,000,000 miles an hour than ever. Like I said, apparently the American government's going to give them artillery shells anyway. You know, they've already given worldwide, the United States State Department has already issued a worldwide alert to all American citizens.
I was going to talk about that. That's crazy.
Well, we've done it twice. We did it after 9/11, and we did it after the shit in Beirut in 1986 when all those Marines were bombed and killed. So, again, it does feel like, again, we're back to global. We're back to GWAT aesthetics. We're talking about the Middle East again, and there's threats about oil sanctions and embargoes, and all at the same time, you know, we have an administration where, because it's a bureaucracy and all the State Department-ish people, it's this sort of inter-ethnic race war that the average American heartlander is only going to get fucked over by their tax dollars and by their cost of living. Inflation is high. And immigration. I mean, like Dave was talking about this last night, but like Paul Krugman, right? That Nobel Prize winning sycophant from the New York Times was just talking about, like, we're fighting inflation, guys. We're fighting inflation if you discount cost of living, housing, food, fuel, medical care. Like, fuck off, Paul Krugman. That's not true. Shit has been harder for the American people.
How wrong has he been in everything?
For like, I don't know, like 30 years he's been fucking wrong.
He was wrong about the internet.
Yeah, the internet's just a fad. It'll be like the fax machine. Like, dude, just go do better. Go act yourself, you know? Like, do better. Follow
Fishy Frenzy brings up a good point
follow
right
your
here.
they, them brethren. Yeah, what?
That clip on the airplane with Anthony Blinken in the background, that is the greatest symbol American power there is right now.
Right there, yeah.
Well,
Air Goon 1 ain't looking so good.
Yeah. Then he said it was like 15 9/11. That was crazy. That was crazy.
No, I love that because it's so blatantly true. That's like, to them, this is 15 9/11s. This matters more to them than the death of nearly 3,000 American citizens.
Yeah.
Like 2,990 something odd people died. And that doesn't matter. I get it, right? It was 20 years ago, yada, yada, yada. But like,
you know what's funny though?
Those were Americans. Those were your countrymen. But this is what matters. Like, if there was never a more clear display of who they prioritize, you versus them, it's them.
Well, Prude, you were in Germany at the time, were you not?
During 9/11?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, you were here?
I was my father was at the Pentagon when it happened.
Oh, that's right. You told me this story. Yeah. Yeah, he was in the Pentagon.
I thought my dad was dead all day.
Yeah. You were only like I was
6 years old.
I was 8 years old. So no, the point being is that there were people. This is what's crazy about America and how things are so far gone. There were people in Appalachia. What's the distance between Alabama and New York? Is like how many hours drive? Like
Alabama to New York?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's probably like an 8-hour drive.
Yeah, something like that, right? So there were people in Appalachia that saw 9/11 and it's like, wow, I have to go. I have to join the military.
Oh,
right?
Okay. Yeah, 8 to 9. I don't know. Let's do a map. Sorry, it says 14 to 15 hours, but I'm pretty sure.
That's realistic. 14.
That's
to 15
realistic.
hours,
Yeah.
Yeah, there were people in Appalachia who never been to New York, who never like interacted with anyone from New York. They're like, you know what? I have to go and join the American military. I have to defend my country. They attacked us, right? But there are people in New York who like, I don't give a shit. And those people in Appalachia, they're evil. They're MAGA-tards, and it was before the MAGA thing, but they were like, they're evil Bush supporters, and they're like, so this is the disconnect, right?
Yeah.
But the point being is that to the average American, it's like, do we really care about it? We said this a few weeks ago, remember? Like, do we really care about 9/11 anymore, right? Like, it's
I think we did that episode. When was September 11th? Was it on a Thursday?
Yeah. No, it was
on a Monday. It was on a Monday. But yeah, Monday. I mean, that week, yeah, like, does anyone care about 9/11 anymore? And it's not really. Like, we pay lip service to it in the same way that, in the 1950s and 60s, we paid lip service to. No, because even back then, probably Pearl Harbor Day meant something more than 9/11 does.
Yeah.
Because the country was far more cohesive in its national narratives and demographics to, actually give a shit.
Yeah.
So not anymore.
And but this leads into the global threat thing, right? The travel alert to everybody. So Americans and Westerners in general, especially Canadians, we view each other as a non-people in the sense that we occupy as a global citizenry of like going throughout the world. And like you have business in America, you have business in Beijing, you have business in Riyadh, you have business in Sao Paulo. Like it doesn't matter, right? Americans are the world people. Right? There was this great, I think it's maybe saved somewhere, I have it, but it was a reactionary writer back in the blogosphere days that wrote this piece about how Americans are the first like postmodern people, right? So, but think of this terror alert, this like global warning advisory to the planet. So it disrupts this like post-history, like liberal notion of Americans are like really not a people that have their own culture and uniqueness anymore, and that actually you can become a global citizen and you could become the global airport society of traveling throughout the world. But now that you have this like global travel advisory for all Americans, it's like that is like the disruption, the way they had that travel advisory during the surge, right? Or during 9/11.
It was also, of course, like there's and it also raises the question: what does American mean? What is the word, or what does it mean to be American to anybody? Because, for instance, the whole deal with the hostage situation that has happened, which, while unfortunate, while a product of war, and the spoils of it which comes therein, they were saying like, oh, we have to rescue these American hostages. And I think there was some news reporting that said like, oh, she was born and raised in California, but she like moved to Israel decades ago and she's like 60 something.
A lot of cases, yeah.
And so like they're Israeli American dual citizens, which one negates the purpose of like, what is the citizenry anyway? And I mean, Joseph de Maistre talks about that. Like if you assimilate people, you also destroy what people was there originally in order to make something new. And then secondly, like, okay, great. We have our casus belli to get involved, right? Like our just cause to like save these hostages and to get involved and to give them money, etc.
It's just like Argo.
But like,
Argo.
I'm sure someone will say that, or someone has. But it's like, okay, great. So this is what we're dealing with now. Is that what does it mean to be American? Like, oh, we got to get these Americans out of there. And I'm like, if you're an American and you've made the decision to live in Lebanon, in Beirut, or Tel Aviv, or Jerusalem, or somewhere near the Gaza Strip, I don't really would consider you American at that point. Odds are you're a dual citizen, you have ethnic or immigrant ties back to that home country, and you're there, and you've made
If you're
choice.
A temporary traveler, that's different. But
yeah, I mean, if you're like a pilgrim or, you're there on business, yes, that's a different story. But like, most of those guys are probably there. I don't know how much of an obligation I have to them, especially if they've made their choice to live elsewhere as an expat.
You made your choice. And you know what? I hate to say it, Prude, and this is what gets me angry, is that a lot of those old boomers that moved back to Israel, they're living in these like chic military guarded housing and apartment complexes, condos in settlement territories. Very dangerous area. So it's like, if you want to live in an illegal settlement that wasn't in the 1948 agreement, then you know what? Go ahead. Why should American lives potentially be sacrificed in terms of the American military for you? Because you wanted to buy a condo back in the Holy Land, I'm sorry, I'm going to say stuff that I'll probably regret. But like, you know what I mean? Like, that's just reality. Why do you think Israel is building those like chic apartment blocks there? To attract American diaspora that have money. So, like, I'm sorry, man. If you get, I don't mean to be cruel, but like, anyways, you go ahead, Prude. I'm sorry, but it's just
I don't know what else to add to it. It's just, at the end of the day, we are niche media personalities that people want our opinion and want their take because we parasocially and parapolitically consume through the other. And you want to, we're there to talk about it. But at the end of the day, I think there needs to be the cogent wake up and smell the coffee.
Yeah.
very, very few of us, myself included, am not, most of us, outside of a very small group of people, which I'm not part of, and I don't think you are either, Gio. We don't have the hands, we don't have the ears of people in the State Department. We're not presidents, we're not ministers, we're not secretaries of states or whatever. Here we are, and we're talking about
Apparently, I do have the ear of the Republican Party from my basement in Canada. But
according to your Antifa A log, that's so true.
He got banned again recently.
Oh, yeah, total victory for Martin.
Well, you wish death upon Elon Musk on Twitter. I mean, that's kind of a bad move, bro.
That's an incitement to violence. That's over. It's over.
Oh,
but yeah, I just we're here, and we're not gonna. Yeah. We don't have that influence, and unfortunately, whatever's going to play out is going to play out. And I would behoove our friends.
Full disclosure, I'm technically a dual citizen, though.
To what? Italy or Brazil? Oh,
yeah.
Well, you could get out of there, I guess, and be like those Los Confederales who left the Confederate States after the war.
Yeah, I might have to give up my Brazilian citizenship if I want to move to America and marry my GF, but that's years down the line, man.
Woo! But yeah. So I mean, that's where we're at. This is the things are going to happen, and I would behoove people to prepare accordingly when it comes to increases in cost of living. I'm sure gas will get more expensive very soon.
Mm-hmm.
I know that the Biden administration is trying to attempt to bolster up domestic oil manufacturing. How fast they can do that, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, like, this is where we're at, and it's going to get worse in terms of on the home front and pricing and homes and gas and food and fuel. And I would just behoove all of our listeners who live in the Western world to be prepared and act accordingly for that. And if you live in an area where there is a diaspora of either Islamic individuals of that religious background or otherwise, expect protests and try your best to either get the hell out of Dodge or to just mitigate the damage that may be done to you and your family and persons. I imagine that things will get worse, but we can always hope that as our friend Norman Finkelstein likes to say on Twitter, this is the biggest test for the not happening gang. So I guess we'll see, but my gut just tells me that, hey, things will probably escalate. If we're lucky, it might be like the 2014 war, right, with Hamas and Hezbollah, but I doubt that. I mean, things have this air of desperation. I think in part because a lot of the pull that neoconservatism had, especially on the Israel question, and America's a little weak, but it probably wouldn't be as, existential if it weren't for the fact that Benjamin Netanyahu was railing to try and wrestle control over the government with those quote-unquote judicial reforms. The American State Department has had a long history of trying to get rid of Netanyahu, especially this new class of State Department officials. So
who would they replace him with? Just libtards in Tel Aviv? How would that work?
Someone probably more moderate and not as authoritarian. I mean, Benjamin Netanyahu's been in and off within the Israeli politics and political stage. I mean, he testified, about the Iraq invasion. He's been involved either as prime minister or someone in big charge of things. So we are, we're definitely going to be in a position, I think, now where it's things are, there's an air of desperation, and people do very stupid things when they're desperate. So prepare accordingly.
I mean, but even the dual citizen critique is sort of like a conservative thing to talking point in the sense of it's trying to avoid the, I shouldn't say it on air, but it's trying to avoid certain problems. But I mean, apart from the optics cucking, I mean, do you think they're going to intervene or no? Because the rhetoric is absolutely insane. The rhetoric is incredible, and it's jarring in a way. But go ahead.
We've sent we got 2 carriers on the way there. We also have a bunch in the Red Sea. Earlier today, I think it was the USS Carney, right? They had launched some missiles at the Houthi rebels in Yemen. That's a whole other ethnic proxy war that's been going on for 10 years now.
The Saudis to go at the Yemenis?
The Saudis versus the Iranians dealing with the Houthis inside of Yemen. And Yemen.
I have a point too.
And the Houthis were the only terrorist group that had declared their intention to join the war against Israel. So of course we sent some missiles and bombed them.
Yeah.
But that's been going on for quite some time.
Apparently, we're competing with the Jolly Heretic right now.
Oh, well, I'm sorry to hear that, but
Yeah,
we're
he doesn't
live. Sorry,
usually stream
kids.
Thursdays. Yeah, but no, I was gonna make a point is that you know why the Saudis temporarily stopped bombing the Yemenis and all the atrocities that have been going on that the American media doesn't cover. You know who's actually coming out on top of this in terms
Iran,
of being a mediator?
China,
Oh, China, but like who else? Who's
Russia.
friends with basically everybody in that
Well, I
region?
mean, in that well, Russia technically,
Russia,
but
Putin.
yeah,
And this isn't me. Okay, this isn't me being a Vatnik. Okay, I'm not a Vatnik, but I'm saying that when it comes to diplomacy, the guy who's like talking to both Bibi and the Jordanians and the Palestinian Authority under Mohammed Abbas is Vladimir Putin, and of course Xi Jinping as well. Those people are coming out very good on top. The second that the Saudis agreed to go to drift towards the Shanghai Economic Cooperation against the Americans, Putin convinced him that maybe it's not a good idea to keep bombing the Yemenis indiscriminately. America gave them those weapons to bomb the Yemenis. So who's going to come out more on top? Vladimir Putin or Joe Biden in terms of global diplomacy? And I think secretly in his 100-year-old senile mind, even Henry Kissinger is saying, well, I guess that Vladimir Putin is probably doing something right. So it's like, I don't know, like this is crazy. This is crazy. Hey, you could criticize Putin for the war. You can criticize Putin for being authoritarian. You can criticize him for all sorts of things. But when it comes to this issue, the cooler heads, I hate to say, and I'm not a third worldist or whatever, but it just seems by the actions of Beijing and the Kremlin that cooler heads are kind of prevailing there rather than in Washington. And this is and you don't have to be like Jackson Hinkle tweeting that stupid AI photo of a communist, the guy with the communist band and with the American flag, okay? With the communist hammer and sickle and the American flag. You don't have to be that to say that maybe Xi Jinping and Putin are doing things a little bit better than Anthony Blinken, okay? It's just the reality of it. So,
to clarify it, it is the missiles that were launched were intercepting missiles from the Houthis. So
yeah.
that probably, so I mean, like, yes, the Houthis did declare war against Israel, but that's also we're seeing the Iranians kind of testing the waters with escalation.
Yeah.
So here
we are. But for those who don't know, the Saudi Arabians have been bombing Yemeni civilians for like 2-3 years now. More, I think, more. So,
yeah.
And they want to bomb Aleppo again. That's another thing. So there you go. No, I just think that Putin being a mediator is way of a better look than, of course, the Americans are going to flatly refuse any sort of
Russian influence in the region.
Yeah, Russian influence, but also like his proposal that to the Security Council, his proposal. They're always and the Kremlin knew that they're going to reject it, obviously. But I mean, the reality is like this is not the time for side taking. This is, so clearly, I mean, of course, listen, the reality is that the Kremlin and Beijing, they have their own ulterior motives, okay? This is the reality of it. But Netanyahu and the Kremlin, they speak way more than they want to publicly let on. Because, of course, Netanyahu is supplying or helping supply the Kiev regime.
Yep.
But secretly, though, Putin and Netanyahu, they kind of all, I mean, they're not as close now. But secretly, I think they're still kind of in like talking terms as opposed to Washington and the Kremlin, of course. So, I mean, this is the problem with the ideologically and let's call it interested nature of current Washington, quote unquote, rules based order foreign policy, is that decisions are not going to be made with reason, and they never were.
No,
but at least
no.
in the heavens no. But at least in the past, there kind of was an air of like we have to be a bit reasonable with the Soviet Union or with Japan or whatever, right? There was an incident back during the Cold War. There was one guy in Moscow that operated missile silos, and he said, I forget his name, it's a famous case, where he said that like if they were attacking us, the Americans would use more than 2 missiles. They would attack us with a multiple front nuclear engagement. And so he didn't push the button in terms of retaliating with a nuclear warhead to America, right? One guy determined the fate of the world in the Soviet Union, right? Because the reality is that the Washington regime at the time, there was a lot of cases where they risked nuclear warfare, right? It's terrifying. But if you look at the people in Washington now that are running things, I can't, it's scary. That's the real black pill, is that there is no adults in charge. The whole thing about like Trump is like an evil clown and he's juvenile, he's a shit poster online, and that the adults are in charge. Like the Obama, Biden, Democrat Washington machine, we're the adults in the room that we're in charge. The adults in the room are kind of like, they're kind of like children again. They're very old, senile children. And it's terrifying, man. The fact they are sending troop carriers, they're sending they're sending aircraft carriers to the region. It's just, I personally think that they're not going to go in like physically, but even if they don't go in physically, what the Israelis doing in some ways are kind of worse, just by indiscriminately bombing Gaza. So yeah, they don't go in, they don't risk a full-scale war, they're just going to bomb them. So it's like, what's worse, right? Like I don't know, I'm getting worked up. Save me here, save me. Jump in. No, because you know what I mean, Prude. It's like, even if they don't physically go in with ground troops, they're still going to bomb them.
They're still going to bomb. They're still going to offer munitions and aid and intelligence and technology. Although like we had that lovely, whoopsie fucky wucky was made from the fucking State Department or whoever took the pictures and posted them on President Biden's Instagram. Our first responders, Delta Force operators, we're going to take their pictures and we're not going to blur out their faces. We just publicly doxed America's special forces to the fucking public,
or blur out their tattoos
that are in Israel. That are in Israel. Like, great.
Or blur out their tattoos, even.
And if they get killed, well done. Now you have an excuse, I guess, to kill them.
Well, it's kind of
or
like
to go in.
It's kind of like it's kind of like in 2003 with the battle, the siege of Fallujah. That was because it was a number of Blackwater operators that got hung above the Euphrates River. So the Americans had to go in, and that was like one of the bloodiest conflicts in the 21st century. So I don't know. I think like, guys, don't argue in the chat. I'm just going to
You knew it was going to happen, Gio. We knew it was going to happen. It's
going to be... How do I... Mods, get in here. I'm going to time people out if you guys don't, behave. I don't want any of this, like, you're brown, you're this. I don't want that. And then Philip Daniel, calm down, because you're giving it out too. So, no, and that's the thing. Like, at the end of the day, like, tensions are very, all boomerish. All boomerish, rant.
But it's Again, we are here exhausting our energy. We're here. You're here for the takes. You're here for the show. You're here for the entertainment. But at the end of the day, there needs to be the very brutal realization that this is going to happen, whether we like it or not, regardless of our opinions, regardless of whatever camp or whatever you might want to call us. You can call us brown, call us Zionist, call us whatever. I don't really care. I can say that my American tax dollars don't want to be involved in this war, not be involved in this war, and I don't want any more immigrants, or refugees or whatever coming over from Palestine or Israel or wherever into the United States, the same way I don't want them in my borders right now. That's pretty plain and simple. But again, this conflict's going to play out, and it's going to play out with the same pick side-isms, sniping and knife fighting each other over Twitter and Telegram and etc., just as we saw with the war in Russia and Ukraine. And we're going to get a repeat of it, and it's only going to be worse because it involves everybody's favorite ethnic group to talk about. So it's just going to be a shit show. It will be... It's going to suck ass. I don't know what else to say. It's going to suck, and if things escalate, please prepare accordingly.
Yeah. But no, that's what I mean. Like, I think the E-right war over this has been quite interesting as well. Like, that's like, what side can we pick? Like, what what rhetoric can we use? Like, what concepts? It's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is more depressing. I thought we were going to actually have a geopolitical discussion, but this is actually way more depressing. My mods are fighting the chat.
Oh no. No. Play nice, kids. Play nice.
Exactly, Arsenius. Exactly. Yeah, that's my thought exactly. Should we move on? I know everyone wants us to talk about this issue forever.
I don't.
Like, let's talk about the post-colonial thing, the Palestinian thing. We covered that already, but it's like, there's a way that you can say that, like, what's happening to them is bad without, like, going the whole, like, this is colonialism, this is blah blah blah. Like, I don't know.
I mean, okay, that rhetoric, and like, even if you're pro-Palestine or pro-Hamas or whatever, like,
yeah,
if you're gonna argue the same language of decolonialism, like, okay, what they want to do to the Israelis is the same sort of rhetoric when decolonial scholars say that the Haitian Revolution was a success. They're gonna do it there. We're gonna bring a bunch of migrants here, and then they're gonna want to decolonize you and put you and your child's head on a spike. Like, no thanks. I don't want that. Don't use the linguistic tools of our enemies. That's my point. That's it.
yeah. And you know what's funny is that it's almost like the 2000s where like normie cons are like digging up videos of like imams saying like absolutely insane stuff about like,
oh, like the one that came out earlier today where there like some Hamas spokesman or Palestinian spokesman was like the racist murder of George Floyd or whatever.
No, that too, but also like about kids, about, yeah, it's like very crazy, man. Like, we're going back to 2009 and counter jihad.
Yeah.
Let's bring Robert Spencer back, let's have all those guys back.
It's gonna happen.
Ezra Levant's been posting up a storm here in Canada. Let's bring Mark Stein back. God,
it's only a matter of time. that rhetoric will come back for sure as time goes on. Like, we're going to make, I mean, that's sort of like the line Ben Shapiro's been taking. This is like, it's radical Islam's the problem. Radical Islam's the problem. I was like, hey, didn't our interventions in the Middle East throughout the decades has only like made Islam more radicalized because of our positions in the Middle East?
It was like an 18-year-old like chubby grad.
Yeah, and he's just like, no, they need to be responsible for their own shitty decisions. I'm like, yes, but we play a role in this.
Yeah, that's kind of a very inhuman talking point when you think about it.
Oh, gee, Ben Shapiro dehumanizing Muslims and other people in the Middle East that aren't Jewish. Say it ain't so.
Yeah, he called them dogs and everything. Like,
say it ain't so.
No, but like, not to play into like the discourse of like racism or whatever. But that is like, come on, that is like, I mean, hey, the reality is that like the Muslims say stuff about Jews and Christians are like pretty hair raising too. Like, that's the global caliphate or whatever. But like, I think it's probably not in their best interest to get involved in like an ancient ethnic conflict. I don't know, man. It's just like, but I think like one talking point I will push back is that there are people saying like, Muslims are gonna like face persecution in the West again. They're gonna like gin up the rhetoric to support Israel. I don't think that's true. I think like America and the West is like too wokeified for that to happen. You know what I mean, Prude? Like,
there's a potentiality for that, yeah.
There's a potentiality if you frame it as like Muslims are anti-Semitic, but like in terms of the political right, I mean, the political right is so marginalized in the West that if we did go back to like the Mark Stein, Robert Spencer, Ezra Levant version of counter jihad, I don't think like it would have.
Well, I mean, Ezra Levant's already tweeting like it's time to bring ends of the world. We must conquer the Islamic world again. Although I do have to notice that it's interesting that the tragedy that happened in Belgium, some guy had said, he went all Allahu Akbar and shot up a bunch of people with an AK-47.
Oh yeah.
And he ran rampant for like a whole day before the cop shot him.
He was on a scooter.
Well, yeah. Guys, it should not have been that hard to just kill him. But he said he was part of the Islamic State, and this is sort of coincidentally the same rhetoric and timing as the Israeli government saying that Hamas is ISIS.
Yeah. Or the intelligence failure. That's kind of suspicious. I don't know how far we can go with YouTube conspiracies, but...
Well, I raised that question with Semiagog. This seems like a really big breach in intelligence. Like,
they took out so many military officers. It's incredible.
I don't know how you, what's the word I'm looking for? How do you fuck up that much? You know, like,
well, even Vivek Ramaswamy said that on Tucker. He's like, how come we're not talking about this huge intelligence?
Yeah, because it raises certain questions, because it's the same thing of like, well, it's again, to go back to 9/11, it's like, it's an obvious intelligence failure. I think it was like President Bush had even said like, well, clearly, you know, a lack of imagination. I'm like, we had reports in the 90s talking about what to do if planes were to hit buildings. Like, we have the imagination. And I mean, here's the funny thing, like, we have the imagination. I put this in my Substack yesterday. I was just like, there are reports about machine learning, AI language tools, LLMs, and propaganda tools for AI imagery and propaganda that was written by the Atlantic Council in like 2015. Like stuff that is almost 10 years old. And these guys are wargaming it out and trying to look at what it looks like. And it's really prescient stuff. I wonder if Schwab's talked about it, but like, I'm sure he has.
Yeah, he has. Yeah.
I'm sure.
His Global Brain article.
Yeah. So, I mean, you've got, they call them MADCOMs, these machine assisted things for global communication and propaganda. And so, you know, like, hey, we've got the imagination.
That's a good question, Louis Cache. That is a good question.
Yeah, where do they get all these weapons from? Because I mean, last I checked, it's a little harder to get a hold of a
in Belgium to get a hold of a machine gun.
Yeah, it's a little hard to get a hold of an automatic assault rifle in Belgium than it is in the United States.
Yeah, it's not even that easy in the United States unless you know something.
No, you have to get an FFL and things like that, or steal it from like I guess an armory or something. But like, you know, like, it just raises some questions. I mean, like, yes, I'm sure that there are black markets and there are terror networks and there are ways in which money can be funneled down. But like that,
I think the IRA did it. The North Ireland. You know?
No, the Irish Republican armies here funding them jihadists. You know, one struggle. Black and tans all the way back.
There was a Palestine thing in the IRA, yeah.
But I mean, realistically speaking, it's more likely it came from some other.
Definitely,
and nowadays, intelligence groups that are more.
We don't live in like the pre Belfast.
We don't live in the pre 9/11 days.
Yeah, this isn't the Troubles. Okay, they came from networks that are indigenous to. Like that other Islamists have set up in Europe. I mean, this is clear, right? So, and also, but when it comes to Hamas, it's funny how a lot of those armaments had American serial numbers on them because they were sold by corrupt Ukrainian.
Yeah, who would have guessed?
Whoa!
It's almost as if we gave all of that money over there into the small part of the most corrupt part of Eastern Europe in the midst of a conflict, knowing that money and all those guns and all those ammunition would be sold to countries and people and terror groups that weren't fighting the Russians or the Ukrainians. They'd go either into the Middle East, they'd go to various parts of the Middle Eastern diaspora into Europe to cause more terror groups, and of course be funneled into various groups inside of the former Soviet states to cause even more Islamic terrorism, because we're really good at funding that. America's really good at giving people guns and money and saying, have at it, kiddies.
Yeah.
Because there's no way me, working at Wendy's part-time is going to get a hold of body armor and an automatic rifle really well to go shoot up a place. I'm just saying. It's
apparently you have to have a license here in Canada for body armor. That's crazy.
Your country's so cocked. I'm sorry.
Guys, why are you fighting in the chat? Why, please?
Did you notice, speaking of noticing, did you notice Steve Saylor started talking about Canadian immigration?
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he's just like, Trudeau's just, because he saw the line go up. Like, it wasn't
just letting them all in.
Yeah, it's like, and he was just like, that's kind of weird. In his little closet of hate, the noticing, closet of his coats and stuff.
Yeah,
it is bizarre to think that Steve Saylor is now talking with Charlie Kirk and shit. Like, it's very weird.
Yeah, we live in a weird world now.
Dr. Pepper. I like to think my personal headcanon is that Steve Saylor does all this in his like closet with all his coats and stuff because his wife doesn't know that he's like a really famous race realist. That's my headcanon. It's that like his wife doesn't know he's like race guy.
No, like that's what I mean. My mods are guys. Like you're my mods. I trust you to have the wrench to not Fed post. But why are you even talking like? Anyways, no. You know what's funny though about this issue is that like the reality is that the proportional response and Ben Shapiro is saying,
man, I love it. We're back. It's what's the fucking show? It's The West Wing. I can't wait for President Bartland to yell at God and say, "What is the value of a proportionate response?" and then start quoting Latin, acting like he's so enlightened. It's the same shit, different day, different president, different groups.
No, that's what I mean. Of course, like if every nation has the right to defend itself, every nation has the right to respond to a terror attack, right? But there are strategic ways of rooting out this particular type of terrorism that doesn't involve bombing huge swaths of civilians. That's what the everybody on all sides are saying. But it's like, but like Ben Shapiro said, as soon as you say proportional representation, you're a traitor and you want us to die. It's like, well,
no.
If you're an American, you should. You know what? It's like
this is the one time you should act like Pontius Pilate and wash your hands of this one. Like, look, both sides are guilty. Both sides are evil. I'm not gonna get involved.
I mean, maybe one side is more guilty than the other, but like, who cares at the end of the day? Like,
one calls me an infidel. One says that my Lord and Savior is burning in a pile of boiling excrement in hell. I don't like either of them. They both don't like me. It's kind of an easy choice, but
the whole thing about like
then it goes back to the whole take sidism thing. But Ben Shapiro's been unhinged as with every other major.
No, but he's like, well, the Palestinians, they reject every peace proposal. It's like, because the peace proposal includes them not existing. That's you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Plus, of course, there's the whole elections that we wanted to have to democratize for two-state solution. Who do they vote in? It's Hamas. And I get it. A lot of Palestinians have left. A lot of Palestinians have left. And then it raises the question, I'm sure, and this was something that even Peachy Keenan was saying, like, I'm sure we could interview plenty of people that don't want to be ruled by Hamas. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, there's probably a lot of them that don't live in the Gaza Strip anymore or don't live in Palestine or Israel anymore. They probably left, and with good reason.
They live in London or Mississauga.
They don't want to die, and I don't blame them for that. But the rest that are in there, I don't see them leaving. These guys would rather get bombed to the Stone Age time and time again, because this is, like I said earlier at the beginning, it's an ethnic war. It's a race war for extermination. It's going to be ugly and brutal. And again, we're getting to see the mask off.
No, but like the notion,
others.
The problem though is that notion of collective guilt. That like every man, woman, and child and old person in Palestine, that they have to have this collective yoke around their head for the actions of Hamas. Like, it's bullshit. Like, it's like saying like every single American supported the surge and therefore acts of terror by the Arab world against America is justified. It's like, that's the same stupid rhetoric. It's just like, when you have that type of emotional rhetoric, I know in a time of crisis, it's hard to compose yourself, right? If they were attacking us, I would understand. But like, I'm saying, like, at a higher level, you should actually think about the words that you're using. And you should say that maybe this whole notion of collective guilt for the actions of a group is like, but of course, that has other scary consequences when it comes to, like, for example, us, right? Westerners, like, when it comes to like the actions of a few dictating like the collective guilt of the many, like,
which is what people will say about Westerners when it comes to slavery, when it comes to the Second World War, when it comes to racism and etc. Like, I mean, this rhetoric isn't just used to get people jolted up. It's used to say, we have a casus belli to exterminate an entire group of people.
Yeah.
And that's
to be fair, Hamas does the same thing with Israel. So it's like,
it's a no one is guilty or no one is innocent in the situation.
I know that Philip Daniels is being ironic, but I kind of agree with this. This is the wholesome Chungus third option right there. The Holy Land belongs to the Vatican. Well, hey, maybe not the current Vatican. Well, what did Pope Francis say? He said just like
I think he said that no one was innocent, and that like we have to pursue peace. And the Israeli foreign minister was like, "Yeah, we're not for this.
This is anti-Semitic." Yeah. I agree with Pope Francis. Like, I mean, Pope Francis gets a lot of hate, justifiably, but like, I agree with him in that statement. We should pursue peace. There's no good people. As much as I criticize the current Pope, I mean, that is a good point. I agree with that position. And the Holy Land belongs to us Christians. So there you go. There you go. No, the reality is that there's not going to be any solution apart from like some kind of like total like American empire goes totally colonial like the British, and they're like, you know what, you people can't get along, we're going to administer this place forever. It's like that didn't work. The British tried, it did not work. So it's like, I mean, it was probably better, but the whole thing about like the American empire going full empire, and it's like, you know what, we're just going to administer these people. That's not going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah,
okay?
no.
As much
as that would be cool if it wasn't being ran by a bunch of like people with an
sclerotic.
that and with an ethnic axe to grind.
Oh yeah, that too. Yeah. So. I mean, it's not going to happen. So.
Yeah, it's
I don't want to talk about the. Let's not talk about the Kurds, Philip Daniel. Let's not talk about the Kurds. Anyways, go ahead, Prude. What were you going to say?
Yeah, I've just been looking through various articles about what's happening, and again, I mean,
what was this Jordanian meeting? The Americans didn't go to the Jordanian meeting. What
I think it was canceled.
It was canceled, yeah,
if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just, it's Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia right now, hoping to prevent escalation. So the UK is doing its part.
Yeah,
I guess. But yeah, we will continue to watch and offer commentary as the events unfold. But
yes,
this has been 90 minutes now of us talking about current thing.
Israel versus Palestine. Yeah.
Current thing, guys. It's great.
Do you think we do well in this issue? Did we not go? We didn't go too far.
I don't know, chat. You tell us. We've already pissed off half of you, and we've pissed off the other half. I don't think there was no winning in this conversation.
No.
I just.
But let's just say, for YouTube purposes, we agree both states have a right to exist. It's just the degree in terms of the settlements and land, and Israel's not going away anytime soon. Okay, so calm down. Calm down. We agree both peoples have a right to their homeland, have a right to. There you go. Maybe just for YouTube purposes, but yeah. I don't know. What do you think, Prude? It's not up to us at the end of the day.
Yeah, it really isn't.
Yeah,
and I don't know what else to really add in that respect. It's going to be just the.
It's going to be horrendous.
It's going to be horrendous, and it's going to suck, and it's going to be bad. And I think that a lot of the same tricks that were used 20 years ago are going to be used again, and that the written responses and the counter critiques to those people are still worth reading. One of the things, I mean, you can laugh about the American Conservative today, like the publication. The American Conservative was founded as an opposition to the Iraq War.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's an important thing to consider.
Yeah.
And they got that right. They got that right.
Yeah. I mean, maybe the problem will go away because, both nations faced immense demographic problems. Like Israel has a huge demographic problem. So I think I think my prediction would be that Israel's going to have to cooperate a lot more in the next 10 to 20 years because They won't have that boomer American support the way they once did. They don't have the demographic numbers to staff the IDF for various reasons. And I think like there's going to be like the Israel-Palestine thing, I think will probably be a bit more copacetic in the future, hopefully, unless they go to war. If they go to war, I mean, all bets are off. But in terms of the current trends of both nations, I don't know. I think like I don't see that base of power in terms of the Israel thing lasting that. As the boomers go, like not even the diaspora, like I said, is probably going to care that much about like, so I think like they're going to like the Knesset is in a very precarious position, and the rhetoric of people like Bibi is not helping them.
No,
Israel faces a future where they're going to have to be a bit more copacetic. You know what I mean? So the problem is, I think the black pill I have is that Bibi has done this calculation where they better have to do a war right now, or else they're not going to be able to do it 10 years from now. So that's my only problem, is that if they truly want to go through with this, all bets are off. But in terms of like things going quieter in the region in the future, maybe, hopefully. I mean, you never know. Saudi Arabia is drifting towards China and Russia,
yeah,
BRIC nations. Iran has been more close to Saudi Arabia and Iraq than ever, than in like 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And American power in that region will be challenged. And maybe it might be good, maybe it might be terrible. Maybe people in Washington might calculate that, you know what, we got to do another Middle Eastern war or else we're going to lose power. So that's pretty scary, right? Because you got to realize a cornered animal is most dangerous when they are cornered, when they're at the loss of their power. That is when they're most unpredictable. So if the American empire figures that they're going to lose power in the region, and they're like, you know what, maybe a war might help that. That's pretty scary. But I think that if cooler heads can prevail, if Israel realizes that they face a demographic problem, they face a problem in terms of external powers helping them in the future. If there is a changing of the guard in Washington and in Britain and other places, and if they realize that younger people in the diaspora do not care as much about their, border security or whatever, then maybe they might be forced to be more copacetic on the issues of settlements and of Gaza. You can hope, but in the meantime, between the boomers having been pillowed and now, that time frame is uncertain, and that's scary. That's terrifying. So, I mean, I wish that of course, I don't want people to die. The images of these children being bombed is absolutely horrific, and the images that Hamas has done in Israel is absolutely horrific. And at the end of the day, these are innocent lives, and it's terrible. So, but the time frame between the boomers losing power and now, that is the next 10 years are going to be immensely uncertain, in my estimation. But I've been ranting for a long time. What do you think of that, Prude? Man,
I don't know.
I'm almost swallowing my gum. Holy
I just don't know if cooler heads are even possible to prevail at this point.
Yeah, true.
That's my concern above all things in this respect. And I don't know. I really don't. And that's really the big issue that I have is that I just think escalation here of all places, just given who's involved and the region in general, means that it's more likely to escalate, in my personal opinion. And that'll really be it there.
And there's other peoples in the world, like 70 mentioned Uzbekistan. Like I think in 10 years, Armenia as a state will not exist. They'll be forced out. They will become a pure diaspora people, like the Kurds or other Alawites. Funny how there's a lot of diaspora people in the Middle East that don't have their own state. That's really, I mean, Asia has certain populations as well that don't have their own state. The Sikhs, right? No, Armenia might not exist. And the global American empire facilitated that. Why? Because they want a shelling point in the Caucasus to go at Russia. Yeah. And so the Israelis, the Americans, the British, they're helping soft ethnically cleanse the Armenians. And there was a time where like Armenians in America tend to be more libbish, right? In California, that they thought the current guy, what's his name? He's like the globalist color revolution guy in Armenia. What's his name?
I don't know his name.
Pashinyan?
I'd have to look it up.
Pashinyan. He like failed them every single time, right? So that's a tragedy. And these people are Christians. Yeah, Pashinyan. Like, yeah, these people. And so it's like, what about them? What about the Armenians? So it's like, yeah, it's terrible, man. Like I don't know. I think, I hate to say it, but as much as, I know you don't want to go on the whole third worldism thing, but at the end of the day, I think like, if America loses power in the Middle East, maybe, who knows, maybe there might be stability in the region. If that happens.
I don't know, but whatever will happen after sort of American influence in the region wanes, I imagine there'll be more ethnic conflicts. And
there'll be smaller ethnic conflicts.
Well, in the immediate aftermath, and then afterwards, whatever power blocks exist afterwards, then it'll be it might stabilize, but it's going to be bloody and costly and ugly, and it's still going to suck. At the end of the day, there are no winners, and we are reminded that war is
if you're
a brutal
Christian in the
and
Middle
ugly
East, there's
thing.
no winners.
Oh, especially that. It's a brutal reminder that things are going to be ugly, and you're going to return to the way that the Middle East has traditionally been, I guess, which is might makes right wars of conquest and domination.
Yep. So,
oh man,
do you want to move on to this article?
Yeah, sure.
I think this is like a record for Digital Archipelago viewers.
We had
please see those super chats, people. This is in case this stream is demonetized. Which we'll see what happens. Man, it's really, I'm getting warmer. Oh boy.
You feel the heat?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what to say. Like I'm sympathetic to the Palestinians, but at the same time, like I'm not sympathetic to radical Islam. So it's like, I don't know. But then not every Palestinian's a radical. Not every Palestinian hates white people. Not every Palestinian's a radical Islamist. And not every Jewish person.
Yeah, not all men. So, not all men.
Not all. We not all. But like, no, this is what I mean. Like, it is genuinely a tragedy either way you slice it, and I don't know what to say.
Yeah, it's gonna suck.
Yeah, it's gonna suck, man.
And no one's a winner.
Nobody.
No one's a winner, but what's going to happen?
Did you see that Ben Shapiro clip where he said that Christ was a criminal and that he deserved it? Did you see that one?
No, but I saw that Michael Malice tweeted something similar.
Yeah,
but
Christ was a rebel that deserved it.
I don't follow these guys, and I don't try to follow a lot of people that are of a particular ethno-religious persuasion that hate my existence. So the fact that Michael Malice used to just be a talk of the town culture writer, and now he's some shit posting quasi anarcho-libertarian is very fitting for a man like him.
In 2023, an anarcho-libertarian. That's amazing.
Who hangs out with Blair White and other people
and Lex Friedman. He's friends with Lex Friedman. So yeah.
Lord have mercy.
You know what's funny? You figure they kayfabe, but considering most of their audience is like boomer Christians.
Maranatha. Come, Lord, quickly come.
You know what's funny? Nimrata Haley's doing a better job of appealing to boomer Christians.
I wish someone had the balls to ask Vivek Ramaswamy when he's like, God is real. And I'm like,
which God?
Which God? Which God, Vivek?
Shiva. Shiva.
Because you're a Hindu, a practicing Hindu, and it was part of a Jewish fraternity in college. Which God? Which God? Which God, Vivek?
It's Shiva.
Which God, Ramaswamy? Which God is real?
Yeah.
But again, everything's about that moralistic therapeutic deism in America. Anyways,
wait. So lead on with the article because I have a call coming in. So
do you have it up on screen, or am I gonna just have to share it? Okay, well he's gone. Anyways, kids, so we're gonna be talking about an article today that was sent to me by our good friend, Billionaire Psycho, and he told me it would be rather interesting to maybe review or read. and it was called History is Written by the Losers, which I thought was particularly interesting, which I enjoyed to read. And I thought, well, why not? We can go over it. It's called History is Written by the Losers. And this came out back in 2016, but we'll get there in just a little bit when Gio comes back, because I need him to share the screen and go over it, but neither here nor there. It's going to be, this discourse is going to be a lot like what we've seen elsewhere, where people are going to have takes and they're going to age like shit, and they're going to be poor, and people will be trying to pull up old tweets, going back and forth at one another, saying, you said this and it was obviously bad. You cited against this group of people. You didn't focus on your people. It's going to be like COVID. It's going to be like Ukraine. It's going to be like Brexit. It's going to be like the elections. The cycle.
Can you put it up, Prudent?
I sent it in private chat.
But let me see. I'll have to put it in
the wheel continues. We're stuck in this digital political samsara, and no one breaks out to reach enlightenment. And you're here forever, kids. Nothing changes, and it all gets worse. Only a new crop of people join the wheel each year to join the chorus of disaffected guys.
Samsara.
Endless samsara, and the wheel turns on, and we're all gonna die. New people will replace us, bitching online and making their money for you to have a little bit of entertainment. Welcome to the world, kids.
Vicariously, I watch as the whole world dies. Yeah, I know that Maynard is kind of a libtard, but that is a good Tool song. It's all right. Here we go. I have it. So I have to have another window. So there you go. History is written by the losers.
Yeah, so like I said, this was shared to me by our friend Billionaire Psycho. So nice. he said it was a good essay. So here we are. We'll read it.
For 2016.
Yeah, we're going back in time, kiddies.
The day after Trump got inaugurated.
It's like weeks after Trump got elected.
Oh, I thought it was November 20th.
January.
Oh,
January 20th.
I'm not American, I forget. So
that's okay.
Meet Siam Juan. I have in high regard. You could say that this was a historian with balls. Siam Juan is sometimes called the Herodotus of the East. His fair title, Herodotus, is one of the two men who can claim to have invented history, or rather, the discipline of history.
Yeah.
Siam Juan is the other. This is a rare feat. It is accomplished in exactly two places. Herodotus did it in Greece. Siam Juan did it in China. Of the two other great civilizations, the Mesoamericans, the Egyptians, the Sumerians, and their descendants, the Andean kingdoms, the early rulers of the Eurasian steppe, and the great empires that sprouted up along the Indus and Ganges rivers, along with their cultural satellites across southern and southeastern Asia, history is nowhere to be found. I remember my shock when I discovered our knowledge of ancient Indian relics on more ancient Greek historians than ancient Indian historians. Traditional Indic civilization simply did not have any. In ancient India, playwrights, poets, lyricists, grammarians, philosophers, storytellers, mystics, mathematicians, military strategists, religious authorities, and religious upstarts all put pens to palm front, leaving a treaty of Sanskrit literature for the future. This literature is sophisticated, is meaningful. Even in translation, much of it is beautiful. But search as you may, nowhere in the vast treasury will you ever find a work of history that a great thinker could profitably spend his time sorting through evidence, trying to tie together cause and effect, distinguishing truth from legend, then present what is found in a written historical narrative. It is an idea that seems to have never occurred to anyone on the entire subcontinent. Only in Greece and in China did the notion catch hold. The work of every historian who did ever live find its genesis in one of two places, and with one of these two people. Siam Juan is not just a celebrated idea of history. He was also a wonderfully gifted historian. His skill exceeded Herodotus, then dispenser of legends and collectors of hooey wives' tales, and is matched only by a few great in the Western Polybius, Tactius, and of course Thucydides. Siam Juan had a character to equal his talent. He was the court astronomer and calendar keeper in the region of egotistical emperor Han Hudi. In the role, he was often presented as court deliberations. One court debate scarred him for the rest of his life. He told a story in a letter to a friend named Ren On. So do you want to read this part?
Yeah, sure. Events did not unfold as I had planned. I committed an egregious error. Li Ling, a general who had just been defeated in battle and surrendered to the enemy, and I were both officials in the palace, but we had no opportunity to become friends. Our duties kept us busy in different offices, and we never had so much as sipped a cup of wine together or enjoyed the slightest pleasure of friendship. But I observed that he conducted himself with an extraordinary self-possession. He was filial towards his parents, trustworthy with his colleagues, scrupulously honest in matters of finance, upright in exchanges with others, deferential in manners of precedence, respectful, modest, and humble. His thoughts were always animated by selfless devotion to the needs of his country. This was his way, and I saw him in is the very image of a statesman, a subject who dashes to the public's aid, risking tens of thousand deaths without a thought of his life as he rushes to his country's defense. Such a man rises far above the ordinary, and so when, because of the single indiscretion, the courtiers' sole concern had been preserving themselves whole and protecting their wives and children, seized upon his mistake to brew disfavor against him. I felt pain for him in my innermost heart. It happened as I was summoned to give an opinion, and in just this way I spoke of Li Ling's merits. My hope was to broaden my ruler's perspective and block the words of jealous-eyed courtiers. But I myself was insufficiently clear, and the emperor could not perceive my sense, believing I was speaking as a partisan of Li Ling and had sent me down for prosecution. Not all my earnest loyalty could justify myself to my inquisitors. I was convicted and attempted to delude my ruler, and sentenced and received imperial approval. In surrendering alive, Li Ling destroyed the reputation of his family. When I followed by submitting to the silkworm chamber, I became a second laughingstock. Oh, such a shame. This is not something I could ever bring myself to recount as to an ordinary person. A man dies only once. His death may be a matter weighty as Mount Tai or as light as a feather. It all depends on the reason for which he dies. The best of men die to avoid disgrace to their forebears, the next best to avoid disgrace to their persons, the next to avoid disgrace to their dignity, the next to avoid disgrace to their word. And then there are those who suffer the disgrace of being put in fetters, worse yet, those disgraced by a prisoner's suit, those in shackles, those who are flogged, yet those with shaven heads and iron chains around their necks, and those who suffer amputations, mutilations. But the very worst disgrace of all is castration. How could I have even plunged myself into the ignominy of being tied and bound? Even a captive slave girl is capable of putting an end to herself, and surely I could have done as well. But it had been inescapably the correct path. The reason why I bore the intolerable and clung to my life, refusing to release myself from the filth which I had been cast, was the remorse I felt at the prospect of leaving the achievement of my dearest heart incomplete, quitting the world like a vulgar non-entity with the written emblem of my world unrevealed to posterity.
Interesting.
Did that just mean that he got lopped off?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's just what that implied here. Anyway, we're reading this live. We have not read this prior to. I took my friend's word for it.
Oh, I read it prior.
But... Okay, well, good for you. I did not.
That's pretty.
You're getting my live reaction, kids.
Yeah.
Do you want to continue?
Yeah, to restate Sam Huan's experience in less emotional terms, because he was principled enough to contradict the emperor in the presence of his court, Sam Huan was sentenced to castration. This was a death sentence. Any self-respecting man of his day would commit sunsetting before submitting to the procedure. Everyone expected Sam Huan to do so. But in the end, Sam Huan decided to accept the punishment and live the rest of his life in shame. Because if he did not, he would never finish the history he had started. Not every historian has the balls to to challenge despot face to face. For despotic Wundi was the castration of Sam Huan was hardly the most despotic thing Wundi would do before his reign ended. It is but one episode in a string of terrors, one paint stroke in a portrait of tyranny. But who painted the portrait? None other than the grand historian Sam Huan. Remember, Wundi is as Sam Huan chose to depict him. Had Wundi realized the influence his court astronomer would have on future generations, he might have treated him differently. Oh, he would have treated him very differently. But Wundi realized none of this. Sam Huan was published brutally and embarrassed publicly. He was a loser, but in the end, the loser got his revenge. We say that history is
written... our histories are going to be written by Troons.
Yeah, it's going to be written by theater kids, and
Christine Weston Chandler is going to write the history of the world.
Well, you know what's funny? Let me have a rant about that. Is that he tried to rewrite...
Rant about CWC. I'm going to go to the bathroom.
Okay.
Just rant.
Yeah, so CWC tried to rewrite... Let me stop sharing for a moment. Tried to rewrite the history. If you see the recent video saying that they didn't convict me, I didn't do anything wrong, I was, people lied about me, like that is a massive rewriting of the history. And it's funny because like what's the funniest part is that in that rant, CWC still talked about Megan Schroeder. Okay, after all these years, and by the way, the reason I took my fez off is we were talking about a serious topic. After all those years, he's still hung up on Megan Schroeder. Still proclaims that CWC is Christ or an iteration of Christ. Still talks about the dimensional merge. Still goes on about all those other stupid things and has not a 1 ounce of shame or remorse or guilt. So it's like, yeah, exactly. History is written by the eunuchs. Exactly. If you believe Chris Chan's account in that new video, I don't know what to talk. I don't know what to say. There's something wrong with you. Okay. If you believe anything that comes out of Chris Chan's mouth, it's like, yeah, anyway. So this is, but here's the point though. Here's the point is that there is a online mythopoetic when it comes to CWC, Christine Weston Chandler, whatever, that this person is a creature that has come about from the internet age, complete with a self-generative mythopoetics, that you don't know what to believe in terms of the reality that is Christine Weston Chandler and the myth of Chris Chan. And that in between is no truth. There is just copy of copy of copy. And so, there's this great book about CWC called Warhol Chris Chan. And the person that wrote that book will never speak about Chris Chan ever again because of it. But in this book, it talks about, the comparison to Andy Warhol as an aesthetic myth, as the icon of the art world. At the death of the avant-garde, where there is no more art movement, there is just the postmodern image of the artist as genius. And that the artist's life is part and parcel of the reality of of the artist. That is what Kristen Weston Chandler is. There is something that is generated there. And by the way, this whole thing that, oh, well, you can't blame Chris because, CWC is like, they have autism. No, like there is clear agency there. There is clear self-creation. No, there's a distorted self-creation, but there is self-creation nevertheless. The myth of Chris Chan will go on forever in the internet age, and there will be no end in sight. And people thought that jail was the end, but evidently jail is not the end of CWC. And so, yeah, but there is an ambiguity there in terms of what is the reality and what is the myth, what is the self-creation, what is the auto-fiction of Chris Chan. Because people like that are inherently untrustworthy, and is Chris Chan a sign of art's decadence? Yes, exactly, introspection. Chris Chan is more of an embodiment of the art world than any, person that tries to do this like auto-fiction where they're writing their own story. It's like, no, if you want to talk about the state of the art world in the contemporary age, look at CWC. So
have we ever considered that he's just like a mentally ill and deranged fuckwad?
Of course, Prude, of course.
Okay, just had to get that out of the way.
Sorry, let's move on. Was that a good rant or was that a good rant?
Let chat decide. I was on the can.
Don't believe CWC's lies. Okay. Now I know that Isabel
2023, and we have to tell people this.
I know exactly. Isabel Jenkins is a terrible person and probably goaded him into it, and she's a deranged psychopath that was probably doing, if you know the history, was probably doing baby's first psyop because her father's a glow in the dark, right? How does she avoid getting in trouble all the time? So don't take anyone's word for it. But it is funny how in the year of our Lord 2023, we're still talking about the myth of Christine Weston Chandler. So history is going to be written by the losers. The history of CWC will not be written by the Chanologists. It will be written by Christine herself. So yeah, look at Prude's face right there. It's just,
terrifying, isn't it, kids?
how do you highlight? There used to be that was Zoom where you could highlight somebody.
You can like their chat or what?
No, like their face, like it can just make you the bigger.
Rather. Oh
no, I'm kidding. Let's not do that. Then let's not do that.
As animated as I am on the show, I don't think people want to see my ugly mug that much.
We need to have a whole ecosystem of clip channels that do that.
Oh,
no. There's that one guy that clips us occasionally.
No, let's not.
Imagine if we had clip channels. Anyways,
I feel like that would be the day where I don't know. I don't. I don't know. I have an awkward relationship with this online parasocial shit. On one hand, is it super cool? Yeah.
That people take the time,
That people take the time and that they're that interested in you. Yes. But does that mean you really want to wear that shirt that's like e-celeb stuff? I don't know. Like it got weird for me.
Yeah.
Like it's like getting recognized public, going to conferences and stuff like that. It's like, well, this is awkward. But it's a reminder that yeah, indeed, you are a public media figure, whether you want to admit it or not in some niche way. Like the guy, our friend Micah Pohl, who bought the Digital Archipelago shirts.
Yeah.
Buy them now. Mr. Teespring.com. Anyways, history is written by the losers. The eunuch got his revenge. I can't wait for John Ashton Cirillo to write the history of the Ukraine war.
Yeah. And playing the Russian. Well, yeah, that's pretty much.
Imagine, like we're gonna, instead of reading like Gibbon's Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire, it's gonna be like Sarah Ashton Cirillo's Decline and Fall of Putin Russia.
Decline and Fall of fascist evil Russia Putin.
The decline of like Slavo fascism.
And that actually the 2016 election was entirely funded by the Kremlin. And stolen from wholesome Chungus Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, Hillary Clinton, trans rights or human rights, Hillary Clinton. I can't wait. I really can't.
Oh my God.
Let's go. Let's keep reading.
Do you want to talk about we didn't talk about the Richard and Anya takes, but that's probably for the best.
I'm not going to give that guy an ounce of my attention.
You know what's funny is that he was bashing Keith Woods right after he went on.
He went on Keith Woods' channel to talk about his book, The Origins of Woke, which I did.
Wait a few months before you bash someone that lets you on their platform.
I did a quick peruse of his book. It's basically a Substack regurgitated with the same smarminess. So I'm like, okay, I'm not missing much.
Yeah.
You know
what's funny is that happened.
Now I want to read. I want to read Richard Host. That's what I want.
Yeah,
I want to read Richard Host.
That actually happened with iHypocrite and BTR, but that was justified because Lev was acting like a total asshole to iHypocrite. And if iHypocrite, if you're listening to this, I'm very sorry. I had no involvement in that. Lev did all the booking, and I don't know. You just treated him like a total asshole. But like, anyways, but who painted the portrait? None other than the grand historian Sam Kwan. Realized that history. Yeah, he got his revenge. We say that history is written by the winners. This is sometimes true. We have no Carthaginian accounts of their war with Rome. Few historians today have much sympathy. I can't say that. The Austrian painter.
Yeah, okay. But I guess you can.
Best not to say the H word. But the threat.
What did we just spend the last hour and a half talking about?
Israel and Gaza. Yeah. So.
Anyways, fine. But the thread seems to connect many of the great histories of the pre-modern world that were written by losers.
Exactly.
It will be interesting in what history, like the discipline of history, if it exists, looks like in 100 years.
Wasn't Howard Zinn kind of like that history written by the losers?
Yeah, but he is a loser and a shitlib and a commie who deserves to anyways, I can't express my...
That's what I mean. Yeah.
I can properly express myself.
A people's history of the people's losers history of the United States. Not to say there's criticisms that he brings up that are probably true, but about
sure, but I don't need it in the
racism, evil, slavery. Yeah, everyone. Yeah, America.
Fucking CIA. It's just like Howard Zinn, Sean McCarthy. Just go.
I don't know. I like Sean McCarthy. He's a friend of mine.
Deported. May he be deported back to May he be deported back to Ireland.
He's Irish?
McCarthy.
No, but like, is he like like he was born in Ireland?
I don't know, but he needs to go.
Does Patrick Casey need to be deported back to
No. He's not a libtard. Deport libtards.
There's a lot of Irish libs.
Deport libtards. It's not that hard.
The hashtag deport libtard.
I want that trending by the end of the show. Deport libtards.
Listen, Sean McCarthy is good to me, and anyways, let's move on. Maybe you know what's funny? I had that meme with Ronnie Coleman, you know, the bodybuilder.
Yeah.
You know, he was a police officer. They had to get like a special uniform for his chest.
Yeah, he's
like, you know, it says here that you're Irish. Back in the paddy wagon with you, Patrick Casey. That was funny. The paddy. You know, Trump got in trouble for saying paddy wagon because, like, you know, he's an older, like, he remembers an older version of New York, and the people were
the
pissed
good
at
old
him.
days of New York.
Yeah, the racist Irish cops.
When a red-haired, you know, when a green-eyed, red-haired Irish cop could beat the crap out of a drug dealer, no one would bat an eye. I miss old New York. Bring back Rudy. Where's Rudy?
Where's Rudy? Yeah, the Italians and the Irish, just like we were kissing cousins, you know?
Back then. Whereas in New Jersey, it's still an ethnic war for who controls the House and Senate.
But now the Indians are getting involved in New Jersey, too. Did you know this?
Oh, see, this is where the Irish and the Meds need to be.
That's why Vivek. Yeah, that's why Vivek hated Chris Christie. That's why Chris Christie he attacked Vivek so viciously because Chris Christie had his, like, you know, trauma from like remembering
He's got that ethnic dog in him.
Yeah, he has like the trauma of like remembering a bad interaction with like a convenience store.
Yeah, he had to run for governor and he had to do his like photo ops at like a 7-Eleven, and he's just like, I hate you people. Never again.
I don't know if I should say this on air, but my GF just texted me. She's like, talking about Chris Chan gave me the I can never do that again. I remember we had that one episode of BTR where it was like 3 hours of a Chris Chan stream. It was like me and Saturnalia.
I was not in the bathroom that long for you to have. Was it that chat? Tell me how the rant was.
It was 10 out of 10. Chris Chan rant is a mythopoetic narrative of the internet age.
He kind of is a mythopoetic character. Like someone will write a book about him in like 20 years from now, after he dies.
My God.
All right, let's see here.
Send your super chat if you want to learn more about Chris Chan. Send a super chat.
In his roundtable post, Treason Makes the Historians, Lynn Rees lists a few of the type. Herodotus wrote his history only after his exile from Halicarnassus. Xenophon wrote his memoirs only after his faction was forced out of Athens. Polybius was once a general of the Archean League, but wrote his history as a hostage of Rome. The destruction of Judea was chronicled by Josephus, a Jew.
Oh, here we are.
Yeah, thank you. These men abandoned their countries and their people for the victories of the future. I wish you would just stop scrolling so I could read.
Sorry.
But Quislingdom was not the only losing path to historical fame. Tacitus's loyalty to Rome never wavered, neither did his identification with Rome's senatorial class, a group whose power was slowly stripped away as Tacitus wrote his chronicles. Sima Guang, the most significant historian of Chinese history, only finished his massive, I'm not even going to try and pronounce it, after his court rivalries had forced him to retire. The history of the Mongols was written entirely by their vanquished enemies. Ibn Khaldun was associated with so many failed regimes that it is a wonder that he found time to write his history at all. I'm sure... He's the guy of Abbasia, right? That term?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I am sure more examples can be found. The example most relevant to this roundtable is the one on Thyestes, son of Olorus. Here in Book 4, we finally learn a tad about the man behind the curtain.
But let's say this line: these men abandoned their countries and people for victories of the future. That sounds.
Well, I mean, if you're the historian,
that's like every millenarian ideology ever.
But if you're the historian, who. And you're the only source,
right?
You know, that's the big deal there.
But that's what I mean, like that.
Defeated now, but my words live forever.
No, but that is a startling admission, though. That, like, you know, the people in the here and now, to the outsider, the loser, the reject, it's like if they determine the voice of the people that hate them, like even nowadays, like contemporary history is obsessed with the the voices of people that hated their own people, that hated their own regimes, and the lowly, and it's like, what did the peasant people do? It's like that is that really is shocking. I mean, this is why it's like, it goes back to that Scott Greer point of like, why would you cede academic institutions to the left? Because
Yeah,
then
you
these people,
shouldn't.
yeah, like history is like fully colonized as a subject by the
Yeah.
political left, right? So that's terrifying. That this is if historians are not going to support their own countrymen, I mean, it's like what not Orwell, a better writer than Orwell, Huxley, said about the final revolution, which is
Mhm.
the revolution of consciousness, where future peoples will be so thoroughly wiped that they won't remember the past. That is
No.
the final revolution.
And then you've
Revolution
got
of consciousness.
I mean, it's the same thing with history today, right? Like, yeah,
Yeah.
history is written by the victor, and it's just uh to go back to what we were just talking about earlier today, Rishi Sunak's in Israel and they're in
Yeah.
Jerusalem right now. Netanyahu again, this is from Michael Tracy. He says Netanyahu again implores the entire civilized world to join Israel in fighting a quote axis of evil, which has now happened. Global war on terror, World War II. Who are the new, Austrian painter fans and want to bring back slavery? Question mark. This is a long war, he says, and Israel must have the full military support and perpetuity, just like Britain during World War II. Second city bureaucrats, just like this is the second war in 2 years where Nazis are fighting each other to end Nazis.
Yeah. No, but it's like, you remember during the surge, right? It was the same thing. It was like these people, it's like a crusade, it's a war for civilization.
Bush got in so much trouble for saying that, and then Obama
Yeah.
just kind of carried it on anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like that rhetoric of like never again, like, well, we don't have to point that out,
Yeah, but I mean that plays a role.
Yeah,
That plays a
exactly.
role.
Anyways, the passage of this. So this is from Thucydides.
Book 4.
Book 4. Yeah, the passage of Brasidas was a complete surprise to the people in the town, and the capture of many of those outside and the flight of the rest within wall combined to produce great confusion among the citizens, especially as they did not trust one another. Meanwhile, the party opposed to the traitors proved numerous enough to prevent the gates being immediately thrown open. And in concert with Euclides, the general, who had come from Athens to defend the place, sent to the other commander in Thrace, Thucydides, son of Olorus, the author of this history, who was at the Isle of Thasos, a Parian colony, half a day's sail from Amphipolis, to tell him to come to their relief. On receipt of the message, he once sent sail with the 7 ships that he had with him, in order, if possible, to reach Amphipolis in time to prevent its capitulation, or in any case to save Aeon. Now pieces of Thucydides' work starts to click together. Few Spartans are mentioned by name. Few still are Spartans mentioned by name on multiple occasions. The exception is Brasidas. Brasidas, brave defender of Metheny, and thus the first man in the war to receive official honors of Sparta. Brasius, whose stratagems almost defeated the Athenians at sea. Brasius, the daring leader who almost stormed the fort of Pylos. Brasius, the savior of Megara. Brasius, the only Spartan eloquent and wise enough to raise all of Thessaly into revolt. Brasius, the general who defeated Thucydides. Thucydides' obsession with Brasius is easy to understand once his personal relation to Thucydides is made clear. His portrayal of Brasius as daring, brilliant, charismatic, and clever beyond measure also begins to make sense. The greater Brasius' past feats appear, the less damning Thucydides' defeat at the hands becomes. Oh, so it's like kayfabe. It's like he's putting him over.
Yeah.
Because it's like you got to make your opponent look good while you put him over. So if you're going to, in wrestling, in kayfabe, if I'm going to lose, you're going to put me over while I lose. because I put you through hell and then you won in the end by a fluke, so you're putting me over. This is what putting over is in wrestling when you lose, right? So it's like Thucydides is putting over Brasius to make himself look good because he's being defeated by a superior opponent.
Yeah.
And so nobody can blame Thucydides for anything. So I get this is kayfabe. History is professional wrestling. That is the take.
I'm surprised that's not a chapter in your book.
That should be. I don't talk about professional wrestling in my book. Maybe in the future. Who knows? I'll come out with a part 2. Thucydides' obsession with Brasius is easy to understand. Once his personal relation with Thucydides is made clear, his portrayal of Brasius is daring, brilliant, charismatic, and clever beyond measure also begins to make sense. The greater Brasius' past feats appear, the less damning Thucydides' defeat as his hands becomes. Thucydides' treatment of Brasius is hardly unique. You can play this game with many other aspects of Thucydides' history, from his attitude towards Athenian democracy, which voted for his exile.
Yep.
It's like Thucydides is like Chudjak. He's like writing. He's like, you know how Chudjak has the true meme?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, it's like that. Look, this is what you are, Athens. You're a tyranny. You're a tyranny.
You're a fake cell.
You're a fake cell. You're a fake cell. He's like, he's got the piece of paper. Oh my God. From his attitude towards Athenian democracy, which he voted for his exile, to his unflattering portrayal of Cleon, who replaced him. It's like, this is like literally a Chudjak. Like, you replaced me. Fuck you. You're a piece of shit. Thucydides lost battle with them all. History of the Peloponnesian War was written by a loser. Oh my God. Why have so many great historians been written by losers? I, like Mr. Rees suggested, if you want to take over here.
Yeah, sure. These men probably didn't see themselves following in the Vidkun's bloody footsteps. They remained loyal to a political community of their birth, just not the flesh and the blood political community of their birth. To a political community, yeah. They pledged allegiance to a nation and being that remained moored just over the horizon and the scapa flow of their imaginations, waiting for the tog of political change. This works for the Quisling historians well enough, but it does not explain the plain sore losers like C. McKeon. And I'll suggest something simpler. Defeat gives brilliant minds like Where'd you go? Oh, there you are. You scrolled down. Yeah. Sorry. Defeat gives brilliant minds like Thucydides 2 things they need to become great historians: time and motive. Those who rule do not have the time to write about it. Occasionally, history produces a Caesar or a Mao, a man who can lead the masses to war on one hand while serving as prolific propagandists to their cause on the other. The greater part of mankind is not so talented. C. McGuan would have never finished his history had he not been shunted out of song court politics. Had Thucydides defeated Brasidas, he would not be known today as a historian, but as a military.
Oh, it's Brasidas.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
I said it was Brasius. It's Brasidas. Yeah, Brasidas. You're right.
Okay. But as a military strategist, a strategist who never had the time to travel the world and collect material needed to write his history. Even winning historians need time in defeat to write their history. Had Churchill's party not been kicked out of power by British voters after the Second World War, Churchill's famous account of that war would have never been written. True. When high position is stolen from you and access to the heights of wealth and power denied, there is very little one can do about it except write. History is thus rarely a weapon of the weak. The judgments of the historian do not serve the margins. They do not even serve the masses. They are a weapon in the hand of the defeated elites, the voice of men and women who could be in power but are not. What was true in Thucydides' day is true in our own. The simplest explanation for the modern academics' hostility to 21st century's capitalism's structures of power is their complete exclusion to them.
It's like, imagine if history was only written by Ken Burns and Mary Beard.
That'd be terrifying.
I mean, that's what's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is the motive of defeat. Intelligent enough to rule, but missing the wealth and position needed to lead. The historian's an eternal sort of like striver midwit. The historian continues to fight in the only domain that he or she can, the page. Here, the historian wields absolute power. Given enough time, that power might bleed off the page into reality. I mean, the current conflict that we're seeing right now before our eyes, that was kind of like, two losers of history writing each other into non-existence, right? So those who, oh God, that's brutal take. I retract that take. No, actually, you know what? You know who the real losers? Us. We're the real losers when it comes to Israel versus Palestine. Would you agree, Prude?
There's definitely something to be said about it.
Yeah.
Netanyahu's, in power. I mean, if he were to be killed or he were to be exiled, maybe his followers or he himself will write a memoir. But I mean, so much of today has the problem. How do I word it? The problem of historians today and the problems of like these great men and these great historians is that how much of this shit is ghost written nowadays?
Yeah, you can't really tell.
Back then we don't have, that case.
You think Obama wrote "Sons of My Father"? What was it called? "Sons of My Father"? Father of My Sons?
Tales from My Father.
Tales from My Father. Tales from the Crypt of My Father.
Dreams of My Father.
Dreams of My. Oh, even better. Dreams of My Father.
Dreams of My Father. Ghostwriter.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna look it up real quick.
I think David Garrow wrote one. One was a ghostwriter.
Bill Ayers wrote one apparently.
Bill Ayers. Yeah.
I ghost wrote the whole thing according to that.
He did.
Yeah. He says, I ghost wrote it. Yeah. Yes, I wrote Dreams from My Father. I ghost wrote the whole thing. I met with the president 3 or 4 times. I wrote the entire book. He released the National Journal's arms and beamed in Marxist triumph. And now I would like the royalties.
Whoa. So those who know Cleon's name remember him as terrible. Those who recognize the name of Brasidas think immediately of daring brilliance. I am sure nothing would have made Thucydides happier, as he wished they would be. This loser's scathing judgment have lasted as possession for all time. I mean, a lot of 20th century history is written by, a lot of the
victorious in the sense that they're there. I don't know.
But what I mean is that
it's not like, you could say that David Irving's history is written from a side that lost, but he's one man. But he's one man. He's not like It's not like everyone. It's not like every bookshelf in Barnes and Noble is selling a copy of Hitler's War, right? Like it's not happening. So I mean, on one hand,
can you imagine? Oh my god. History junkies are generally fat, skinny, fat losers. Not all of them. There's some good history people.
Hey, I resemble that remark.
No, but I think like what I mean is that
just history hang up my history degree and die.
But not even just like the historians as losers, but historians in general in terms of immediate history. We could say that like the writing of history is irrelevant, but the reality is that the histories of the 20th century, they influence on a metaphysical level even public policy today.
What's a great example of this?
Yeah.
The Big Short.
Oh yeah, there you go.
What is The Big Short other than taking a story of some guys that managed to see it coming and made some money out of it? But a decade later we make a movie about them
and profited off people's misery.
Well, we profit off people's misery, but who do we paint? We paint Alan Greenspan and Hank Paulson and all the guys that have access to money, power, and control the levers of the entire financial system at the time. And so this historiography is written from us, the losers, the ones that got fucked over. The ones that are now these, indicting these people of history. There's going to be a bailout. It's going to be bad, and it's just like history is played out in this melancholic tone because we're the ones that get fucked over, and so we tell these. And what is Howard Zinn's people's history other than the people who lost? But ironically, though, those people won. The Marxists,
they won.
The commies, the race baiters, the
black, ethno-narcissists, they all won.
The anti-whites,
Antifa won. Yeah, exactly. So
I don't know how much of this can be said other than the fact that it's the cognitive dissonance of every leftist, right? Every leftist is in the state of perpetual revolution that must be, well, we're out of power, or we're one election away from like the total defeat of the leftist project,
but one election away from total existential defeat.
Oh yeah, because you have to get people up and riled up about
the
war.
The MAGA chuds, they're gonna I remember one.
We're gonna put you back in chains. We're gonna find trees and lampposts since the end of the world. And it's like, bro, I'm like so close to just like getting massacred by my own government. Like,
do you remember you said
Carlson's asking the former president of the United States, "Do you think there's gonna be a civil war? They want you dead."
What's funny? I remember. You remember you were saying how you listened to Thermidor magazine podcast?
I listened to like all of them.
Yeah.
Every
I
single
was
one
on
that
a
was
few of them.
archived. I know. I listened to them.
I remember the one I was on with Nathan Duffy, where he's like, they think that as soon as Trump gets like reelected or elected, that they're gonna like grab trans people and grab,
Well, does everyone not remember in
IPOC people.
like in 2016, like those ads about what the headlines would look like if Trump got elected? It was like deportations start today.
That
And
one
it's
political
like,
cartoon where it's like the MAGA chuds like rounding up like black and Mexican people. Remember that
yeah,
one cartoon?
or that like abortion was going to be banned, and that like we're going to like pull over pregnant women over the cars for trying to get an abortion or whatever.
If only.
Like visions of based world, and it's just
Visions
like
hashtag a vision of based world.
You live rent free in every leftist nightmare. But unfortunately, the world of their nightmares is not the world you live in.
Yeah.
But we can make that dream come true. We can make that dream come true. That nightmare be reality. Your dreams can be real. Join us. I don't know. Like, just,
not that we advocate violence.
Not that we no, but whoever wrote those political ads and cartoons, may they be deported.
You know what? They think the horror is like enforcing a border.
Libtards.
That's what they think is terrible.
Deport libtards. That's the only answer.
No, but they think like a country having borders, like I read about this part in one section of my book on New.
I'm having too much fun. Sorry.
Yeah, no, a nightmare vision even exactly. God closed my eyes. No, like they have this artwork about like no person is illegal and like we're an international citizenry, but it's like, of course, they think that
I'm just like that chud holding the bathroom door, just like, come on now,
Yeah. The best edit was like the it was the Nickelback and Saliva song. Where it's like and a hero is like that one. It's like he's tapping the side. It's like
oh god, if only.
I love that edit. No, like these people think that like just saying men and women are real and like enforcing borders that's like akin to like the mid-century Germans. Like it's insanity, right? But like the point being is that when you really think about how history influences the present, I mean, public policy is written by historical perceptions that are written by various people
or by, I guess, what's the word?
Howard Zinn's Howard Zinn talks about the marginalization of certain people in America, but like that book is it's in high school. It's given out to high school children in America. So this is like the real, it is given out to high school children, is it not, Prude? Or,
I didn't read it in high school. I read it in college.
But apparently there are high schools that give it out.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I didn't go to one of those schools.
Yeah.
Just everything is so localized in the country. I wouldn't know. I'm sure there is some that do. It's not.
Yeah,
it's not for me.
But anyways, my point being is that like it is ironic how the marginalized peoples of the wretched of the earth, like that thesis is being like written into like mainstream public policy in North America and in Europe to an extent, and it's I think like we live in a very weird world where writing does matter, even though people think that it doesn't in the present, because people have this like sort of contingency bias towards certain like material STEM fields or whatever. But like reality is that if history is only written by the Mary Beards of the world, then I'm sorry, man, the future is going to look pretty bleak. If history is only written by Mary Beard and who was that guy before even Rex Kendi? He was like the darling of like the white liberal that read the New Yorker. Ta-Nehisi Coates.
No,
if history is written by
like James Baldwin, I was like, oh no, that's even worse.
You know what's funny is that like, James Baldwin, I mean, he was the writer, right? He was
the guy who wrote The Fire Next Time or walked through Europe and was like, yeah, I'm black. I don't belong here.
He wrote Giovanni's Room.
I don't recall, or unless you're making a joke. I just know about The Fire Next Time and some of his other essays about.
He was gay, right?
Religion.
James Baldwin.
James Baldwin, I think, was
Yeah, he wrote Giovanni's Room, which was about like a gay bar owner. Traveler. I'll never forgive James Baldwin for writing Giovanni's Room.
I just know him for his more racial and religious work. I didn't know about the homosexual stuff.
Yeah, like he was actually an interesting writer. He was. I agree with TB. He was an interesting writer, even though there
Like
was
The
like,
Fire Next Time, Notes of
yeah,
a Native Son, and a few other pieces of his I've read. I didn't know about the whole gay thing. That doesn't surprise
yeah,
me.
yeah.
Today I learned, I was today
Yeah,
years
today
old.
I learned. But the point being is that
We did it, Reddit.
yeah, we did it Reddit. No, but the point being is that like yeah, Tanishiko, it's like it's sort of like
Anti-racist baby.
yeah, anti-racist exactly.
Did
It
you
becomes,
see this little tweet going around? I'm gonna send it to you in
I have to
the
write that
chat.
down, anti-racist baby, to put in my book.
There you go.
What tweet?
I send it to you in the private chat, but it's that stupid inclusion thing, or
Oh, God.
where so I've taken the liberty of adding a fifth. Does this make sense? And I don't know if this is like a legit guy or a
Oh
or
yeah, I saw that. And like eventually inclusion's just getting rid of the fence. Yeah,
yeah. Did you put it up on screen? Just, Jamie, pull that
Let
up,
me copy.
and then we can go to the super chats.
All right, let me get another window here. Open new window. Because I have like way too many tabs.
I know the feeling.
They're not unoptical. It's just there's a lot of articles and PDFs and
That's understandable.
minorities group. That's what it's called, minorities group.
Really?
Let's see here. Present, screen share.
There we go.
Here we go.
But yeah, no, I like it when they just spell out the conclusion that every right wing, it's the whole woke are more correct than the mainstream. It's just like, oh yeah, the end is like the destruction of all, what's the word I'm looking for? There you go. The absolute destruction of all peoples and institutions and things. Yeah, I love the fame.
Look at this.
I love the famous equality, equity, justice cartoon and have used it a lot in talks. However, it always really bugged me that there were 3 people exactly where they were outside in the park when all 4 pictures. So I've taken the liberty of adding a 5th. Does this make sense to everybody? Inclusion. Yeah.
This is incredible.
There's no ballpark.
Yeah. There's no rules.
No institutions, just vibes.
Yeah, and maybe I should go on the ice next time the Toronto Maple Leafs are playing tonight, so maybe next time,
Yeah, it needs to be inclusive. Gio needs to put on his skates and just go.
I wish I learned how to skate when I was young. I tried.
He needs to just goon it out in the old-fashioned sense and just beat the shit out of
I
somebody.
love the fame. Yeah, I need to goon it out. You'd be like Ty Domi, man, or Wendell Clark. Look.
Gay race communist.
Gay race communist.
Wait, put it up there. I want to read it. Because he says, good job, your historically unprecedented, deranged, utopian project to seeing your country go to shit. Turns out human beings aren't all equal and differences do matter. Now you live in a third world shithole. Outstanding. Yeah. Oh, yeah, and it tags the minorities group. I didn't. Oh, man.
Yeah, that's what it's called, the minorities group.
I'm retweeting that one. Thank you. Thank you, Conley Drupka.
He doesn't follow me, Medex Sisyphus. I don't know why. Nearly perfect metaphor. The solution involves ruining the game by having random kids around the field. This is also tearing down half the stadium, all because they want to help the viewers who refuse to pay for a ticket. You've done the Chesterton's wall, and you're celebrating it. Oh, that's a good take. I fear if I keep scrolling down that we're gonna have some.
You're gonna see some unoptical stuff. Probably.
Yeah, we're gonna see some pretty unoptical things. Yeah, I know. I tried learning how to skate, but I couldn't do it when I was a kid, and I don't know. I wish I learned how to skate. I wish I could have played hockey. I would have been an amazing goon. I feel.
This is it's real Uncle Rico hours now.
Following the footsteps of Ty Domi. And Darcy Tucker. But anyways, need those super chats. I think we have some pretty. I don't know if the super chats are pretty unoptical.
If we'll get to them when we get to them. Ladies and gentlemen, the Digital Archipelago is sponsored by viewers like you. Your ongoing support to this project, both on Substack, Patreon for Geo's, Subscribestar for myself, give and do the needful. But of course, we do want to give a good special shout out to our friends who are currently out there. Geo never had the makings of
oh my god!
Damn, just got called out and ruined my commercial break there. But do buy our good friend T.R. Hudson's newest book, The Perfect and the Wicked. If you want a historical fiction that takes a look at the rise and fall of the Kennedy dynasty, The Perfect and the Wicked is the perfect book for you. Out now. But I'm also going to shill one last thing. do buy the upcoming issue 4 of the Mars Review of Books, where me, yours truly, your favorite amphibian, will be featured in there, giving a review of Sohrab Ahmari's book, Tyranny Inc., where I tear into it because it's not a very good book. Now,
Wait, let me
to the
actually
Super Chats.
let me actually do something really quickly.
Oh no.
Mars Review
Of Books.
I'm
on the cover. Has me there. The Prudentialist on Sohrab Ahmari. It's great.
Yeah, let's see, where is it? Here it is. Okay. Let me just copy.
Do the needful.
Yeah, I'm trying to
I have not checked chat at all today, and I'm like looking to the right, and it's like comments over 1,300, and I'm like, oh boy.
Yeah, it's pretty hairy.
It's been a wild ride, kids.
Let me wow, I have a lot of super chats. Let me just screen share.
Why don't you?
Oh, sorry. So,
you're fine.
Is it? Yeah, allow.
Give deeply.
Here we go. This is the Mars Review of Books. It's Kojev's. We're just living in it. I want to read that one.
Yeah, same.
On
Younger, I am purchasing a print copy, so
yeah, I should do that. It's got some good friends like Magdalena Taylor is in here,
and it's got friend. I like how it has the people of Flat Design in there.
Yeah, being eaten by
a spider. That's so good.
Yeah, I'm actually currently writing the chapter in Humans of Flat Design. Maybe we should have Magdalena Taylor on to talk about sex.
Oh my god, you said the word sex without putting like an asterisk in it.
I know, writing. I should.
Sorry, I'm giving you the Med Gold treatment, but
oh yeah, he did. But
now that you're like a certified fake cell, I think it's just totally fine that we can talk about these things.
R.I.P. Med Gold's account. I guess his wife.
May he serve in the IDF proudly.
Apparently, every time his wife gets suspicious of him, he deactivates. Not that we would spread rumors, allegedly. But anyways,
and Jesus H.
Jeez. I hope you never come back.
On to the super chats, kids.
On to the super chats. Tim Miller for $4.99. Sovereign is he who decides the exception. Who is actually sovereign? Israel/Tribe Desperate or America? I think the answer is obvious, though. 0707. Let's not answer that question.
I mean, sovereign is he who decides the exception. Here's the thing: like sovereign would imply there's one sovereign. The issue with democracy, and this is the thing that we've been covering on Oren's channel, me and him doing through Joseph de Maistre, the moment you make it more bureaucratized, more spread out, and more behind layers and layers of administrative bureaucracy bullshit, it becomes really hard to determine who's accountable. So instead of one sovereign, you have a sovereign that's technically got 500 to 5,000 sovereigns. Like this is what we were sort of like kind of Fed posting about earlier this week on his channel. Because like de Maistre's like, well, you can't morally judge Nero. He's sovereign. You can kill Nero. The problem with the democracy, and this is what is the argument saying democracy means more stable regimes, is that, well, there's not just one sovereign. Technically, there's like 5,000 that all act as part of the sovereign system. So it's like, great. Instead of one Nero I have to remove like 5,000 Neros. So, I mean, it's very obvious that there is a lobby in here that I don't think is as monolithic as we say, because there are certain groups that are like total Slav death versus like pro-Zion. But again,
there's a group that's like total China death as well.
Yeah, that too. So I mean, like at the end of the day, like, do they weigh an outstanding influence on American politics? Yeah, absolutely. Do we have a sovereign in this country? No, and unfortunately, that's a really neat trick of the system. But we'll carry on to the next one.
You know what's funny is that Vouch take about like, well, it seems like they have undue influence, and like, you know, the far right's going to use this. The neo-Austrian painter is going to use this, but they really have no power. Kind of like the fetus in the womb has like political power, but they're like powerless. So like, well, okay, Vouch, okay, we'll see that. Keith Wood shared that video clip of Vouch. What a weasel Vouch is, by the way. I know let's not talk about him.
Oh man, BreadTubers acting like weaselly retards. News at 11.
Like, no, but that take is just so monumentally, like, besides the point. Like, it's really a distortion of what's
Stock Dem 101 points on that question. Yeah.
Yeah, 100. Well, that's what I mean, because their hand is being forced between like woke anti-colonialism and so I wonder. Of course, Vouch is going to side in this, err on the side of the State Department. So
yeah. This has been our spiciest episode yet. I hope
know,
nothing
eh?
happens next week.
Me too. Though, err on the side of caution, err on the side of the State Department. That's funny.
Yeah.
$2, £2 by our good friend Fishy Frenzy. The saddest thing in life is wasted talent. I agree.
That's so true. And
Very
refer to our
true.
friend JJ the Jackoff plane, where he's just like, how many great men of history out there could have been great men and Napoleons, but they're 6 foot tall and have 8-inch tits.
Very true. And for $5 by Mike of Paul, our good friend, the What Went Wrong dominoes have continued to fall in slow motion. With these lefty student types, these streams are gems. Well, that's what I mean. The left is the political left is really
I love his profile picture.
Yeah.
L's.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
This
this is the What Went Wrong book, basically personified in 2023. Like, he wrote that book in 95, so it's 28 years old. It's my age. But like, the end of the day is that the ethnic tensions between like these sort of progressive, institutional Jewish types versus like more rabid emerging ethno-narcissists, emerging ethnic minority groups that have their own chip on their shoulders. Yeah, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And we're seeing it play out right now. Like I said, this is basically Norman Potteretz's like point from 63. Like,
but
it's
I don't think
changed.
it's
Well, a lot's
right.
changed, but not much has changed.
I think in the long run, I don't see how the political right can. I mean, we're going to benefit from them arguing, but I think that eventually there will be a reconstitution of the left coalition, and the censorship tactics that they're using against each other will be used against the political right. That was my take.
Oh, always,
yeah.
And anytime that the left has a war, whatever tools they learn from that, they just use on the right. That's absolutely true.
Even more effectively. So
absolutely true.
Just stand back and just don't make too much noise while they're arguing with each other. And for 100 MX Mexican pesos, which I believe is about $5 US. Black Pill. I went to a pro-life march with my dad. We talked to the organizer, a rich man in town, about the low turnout, then about our families. 3 of these male sons emigrated to the US. So, I mean, yeah, the pro-life movement, I mean, even Trump called them out recently for, yeah, I mean, the pro-life movement, they're lived out on everything besides that medical procedure issue. So
yeah, I mean, you're a single issue voter. There are a lot of people who are like big shit libs that are just anti-abortion.
Yeah,
but like, also the pro-life movement just doesn't know what to do with itself now that the Dobbs decision came out. They just don't know what to do because they lost their golden goose, which was the semi-permanent legal status of Roe v. Wade. And now that it's like, not to quote the Joker or anything, but it's just like they were a dog chasing cars and they finally caught one. They don't know what to do.
Yeah. And for 20 MX by Hugo Glitz again, 56. I like Yarvin's 5-step plan for permanent Gaza peace. What is? I didn't read this.
I didn't read it either. I didn't read it either. Sorry.
I mean, what is his plan? If anyone in the chat can enlighten us, what is?
I mean, he did reference Nomos of the Earth, so I guess I should probably read it. He referenced Schmidt.
Yeah,
I might read it, but I did not read it in prep for the show.
Yeah, we should, but
it's in my email inbox, but I'll read it. Just
and Joshua, yeah, I might read it. Joshua Bybee, for $4.99. What is an American? Can you clearly define it, or is it like porn? You know it when you see it. I don't know, nowadays,
I would go with the I know it when I see it.
Yeah, true. Because then sometimes you could have a spiritual American, such as myself, who might as well have been an American. And for $1.99 by Tim Miller, USA becoming the world people when our G was O by Z in 1945. What does that mean?
Is he referring to genocide?
When our G global was O by. Oh, I see. Okay, I can't put that up.
But is he asking a question, or is he just saying that like that's when the
he's
power
just saying
came
that
in?
1945 America became the other metaphor for G.
I see. Started a little later.
Yeah. But for AR 200,
like complete institutional takeover in that respect, probably started in the 50s, 60s. You had like a decade and a half before it really got bad.
Yeah. What is ARS? Is that the kroner? No.
ARS. Let's go look it up.
ARS.
Argentine peso.
Oh,
Or was that like a what's the word I'm looking for?
it's Argentine peso.
Yeah.
So that's about 57 American cents. No
All
way.
right.
And for 57 cents by Nico, our good friend, don't be too quick to judge the Pope. He may be much more sly than you'd ever guess. Remember, he was a bishop and he had to handle the worst of them. Yeah, that's true. So but I think like the Pope has been entirely. You got to remember, there was a time at the beginning of the war in Ukraine that the Pope was actually pretty reasonable, but then he had to backtrack and started to normie sadism against Russia. So and for $9.99 by Moose, even though Moose has been a troll and an A-log to me recently, he said that I wasn't a good writer. $9.99. You heard Ben Shapiro. If we abandon them, they nuke. Oh yeah, the whole logic of like if the Americans don't step in, that's going to lead to nuclear war with Iran.
If we do step in, it'll probably lead to nuclear war with Iran.
Schrodinger's nukes.
Schrodinger's nukes, and it's just like, oh man, it sounds like I'm in an abusive relationship with a certain group of people.
But anyways, thank you, Moose. Thank you. Yeah, I think probably non-intervention has a. Call me an optimist, but I think Ben Shapiro is wrong. I think if the U.S. doesn't intervene, there's a greater chance of not having nuclear exchange with Iran than if America does intervene. Call me an optimist, but I think Ben Shapiro is kind of wrong on that point. What do you think, Prude? Yeah.
It's say it again, Gio.
That if the U.S. doesn't get involved, there is a greater likelihood that there isn't a nuclear exchange with Iran than if they do get involved.
I wouldn't put it past the Israelis to act unilaterally, but
yeah,
I don't.
Either way.
The question becomes like, okay, we know Israel has nukes. Like this is an undisputed fact. Yes. I don't think the Iranians have them. So
probably not.
The real question would be is like, what can Iran do if it ever escalated to that? And better yet, like, what's the rest of the world do? Because like this is the thing. I do not buy into the concept of limited nuclear exchange.
No, me neither.
I'm remotely skeptical of it because if one nation
even ecologically,
because if one nation turns the key, that's carte blanche for every other nation to just say fuck it. But at the same time, there are some rationalist models and bargaining theory that would say like, well, keep it isolated. Maybe there can be. It's such unprecedented territory that this is all unnerving, as per usual. And
we're gonna live in the Fallout franchise soon.
Oh, I can't wait! But instead of 1950s aesthetics, it's faker and care.
Oh God. So I think that Iran probably doesn't have the nuke, and you never know what's going to happen. But I think America shouldn't get involved, and there's probably a likelihood that Israel would probably find a more peaceful solution if America said to them, "Listen, we're not going to fight your war for you." So, and for $10 by Sam153, Dean's Death and D's, Deef and D's. What's that?
Dean's Deef and D's. I have no idea.
Me neither. But anyways, thank you so much to Sam153.
I don't know what that means.
I don't even know what that means. And for £5 by our good friend Fishy Frenzy, thank you so much. Trump is the peace candidate. If he won in 2020, America might be friendly with North Korea. The war in Ukraine wouldn't have happened or ended quickly. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, why was the Russiagate thing so important? As soon as he got elected, like, the one guy that's been really big and adamant about having peaceful relationships with Russia right after Euromaidan, right after senators like McCain and Lindsey Graham were like, let's go to war. He's the peace candidate. Absolutely.
100%.
Even if it just meant that, hey, we're just going to give you some money and just please shut the hell up and never talk to us again. That's better than us going to war.
100%. And for $5 by Gloff, or good friend New Gloff, White Pill, we are all going to make it. Hopefully.
Let's pray.
If there isn't nuclear exchange, we're all going to make it. I don't think.
I don't know. The IRS has a plan to tax me after a nuclear war. So, if we're lucky, we'll be fine.
100%. And another from Mike of Paul, another $5 talking about CWC gave me the male ick. male ick. Now, the business end of the powered hole punch in one mouth. Wow. That's incredible. Yeah, I mean, I gave my GF the ick, so I wonder if I'm going to have to.
You talked about Chris Chan.
I know.
It's over,
yeah,
man.
It's over.
You're a normie now.
I'm a normie.
Well,
I am a normie now.
You're as our favorite black people like to say, you're a normie tard zogbot now. Like it's over. That's over.
You had to say the word on.
I sure did. I had to because it's such a good word. It's such a good word.
Oh.
Thank you, Nightmare Vision. I love it. It's fantastic. It's not even his word.
Yeah.
But it's a great one.
Anyways, let's move on. Hopefully this can get memory hold. $10 by Matty Ice. A big difference to me is that one side hasn't been sexually abusing trailer park girls to get compromise on U.S. politicians. Biden's brother owns property on the neighboring island. Some friend. What's he referring to there?
I
think
he's referring to Little St. James.
Oh,
Epstein being an asset to certain intelligence agencies like Mossad.
I seen that meme go around that they'd rather blow up the world than reveal who my friends were, and it's like a picture of
of Epstein.
And
why
for
not?
$5. Wait, what were you gonna say?
I know. One side are very much worse, and I know what. These next couple of super chats from Matty Ice, I'm pretty sure are just like, listen, one side's the problem, and I get it. Yeah.
So for $5, Nora has one side poured billions of dollars communally into propaganda campaign to elicit self-hatred and outgroup preference in eyes. Well, that's true.
I don't know why people like again, this goes back to the lobby. And I mean, even fucking Pat Buchanan was talking about this. Like, they sell our tech to the Chinese, they give our shit to the Russians. They're not an ally. They're not. But because we have to bend over backwards for this group of people.
Yeah.
For as an American,
well, without making it too explicit,
without making it too explicit, it's not good for the American people.
You know what's funny is that there's people like even Mersheimer like wrote the book literally.
Yeah, him and Walt.
Yeah,
and it's just shitting on neocons. Like there is some religious stuff in there and some ethnic stuff in there, but like it's a legitimate book, and the criticisms have aged like fine wine.
Well, has Mersheimer came out with a statement about this current?
I have not kept up with him.
I wonder if he goes on the Duran again.
I wonder if he does. That'd be interesting. But no, maybe
we ever got Mersheimer.
That'd be great. I emailed him. I never got a reply. But I do have his book on PDF, so maybe I'll just do a stream where we just I read the book from cover to cover, and we just go through it. It'd be like a day-long streamathon.
Whoa, we could do that. And for $5 by Brent Taylor, our good friend. Did you guys ever see the cartoon of AH Modern Day advocating an open border policy for Israel?
I saw that. It's pretty funny.
There was an animation?
Yeah, there's an animation of everyone's favorite mid-century German leader acting like an anti-woke, a woke progressive advocating for open borders for Israel. And he's acting as like an anti-racist leader and all that.
Is this like a Murdoch thing? Or
no, it's so like the animation quality is better than Murdoch, and it's more recent.
I've never seen this.
I'll try and find it and send it to you.
That's insane.
But yes, it's cheeky and funny.
But then again, that is sort of like a Cole sap, cool concept of like the Austrian painters like Holsum Chungus. He just cared about his own. I don't know. Anyways, I'm saving the big super chats for later. Wrestling with Wormwood. I don't know if we should answer this one for $4.99. I've asked you in the past, and you seem to be interested, but now that Borsley's back on Twitter, is there any chance you would have him on? I don't know. I mean, he didn't follow me back. I don't know. Maybe.
If the opportunity arose,
I guess. The only thing I'd be worried about is that people.
I'm not associated, or I don't know too many people from sort of the TRS circle.
Yeah,
so it's not my. Not that I have an issue with them. It's just, hey,
I
have no connection to them. So
yeah.
But hey, if the opportunity arose, sure, be cool to ask. Honestly, if it were to happen, it would be me asking like a bunch of like questions to an old head more than it would be anything else. Because like, hey, you've been around a lot longer than me. I have so many questions about the history of how this was stuff. Because people telling the story of like the last 8 years are mainly being told by people like me who are like newish to the scene, and they shouldn't be telling that story. So letting the old heads tell their tale without, getting in trouble, I guess would always be interesting.
Yeah, 100%. So finally for $5 for Seasider, then we'll get to the big ones. $5, thank you, Seasider. Now we have a few big ones. We have two. Wow, oh my God. $20 super sticker by Zen. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And this next one, this is the last one.
Sneed them away, kids.
Sneed him away. This is the last chance to Steve, but this, I can't believe this. From the bottom of my heart, I'm in shock right now. He's been a good follower of both of us. He's one of the basest, most insightful boomer schizo posters on Twitter. Our good friend Patrick Kehoe for $150. I can't believe it. Thank you so much, my friend. Wow. And hopefully you give Prude also $150. Oh my God. Thank you so much, Patrick. He's a great friend and supporter of ours. I wouldn't be shocked if he probably gives you $150 next stream.
Well, we'll see. But still, your gracious continued support of the show is always appreciated.
I'll split it with Prude.
No, don't. No, this is yours.
No, are you sure?
This is how we split the money, so we never have like problems like you and Lev. The big reason why we have the show on Gio's channel in mind is to split ad revenue and to split super chat, so it's never bitching about money. And honest to God, it works out great.
Yeah, but thank you so much, Patrick. That's been great. He has a Substack, by the way. If you go to Patrick Kehoe's Twitter account, which I believe is just Patrick Kehoe, he has this great article about the art world too.
I did not know he had a Substack. I'm gonna do a sub.
Yeah.
Millions must
need.
Millions must sub.
Millions must sub. But thank you guys. Unless you have another super chat, I don't have any PayPal donations. But did you see? Listen, KDJ, I don't think that's a white pill. I think we need more fat women. No, I'm kidding. But at the same time, it's like the problem with the beauty industry is that it's so schizophrenic. It's either pro Anna skinny women or fat women. It can't just be chubby mids. Okay, it can't be Abby Winters girls. But
I wish, honestly, I would wish that the beauty industry would have more mids. Yeah, make it attainable.
Abby Winters. No, Vingal. What I mean is, I like Borzy. It's just that a lot of like people follow him or TRS people around. A lot of Antifa accounts are still obsessed with them. So, but I've always liked Borzy's work, though. I think he's a great podcaster.
He had a great pause button episode of Barry Lyndon on Barry.
Yeah,
Lyndon.
That was a good episode. Yeah. Was it pause button? That's the movie review one. The other one's Hyper Podcastism.
Yeah.
Does he still do Hyper Podcastism?
I have no idea what he does anymore.
He's a family man now. He's pressed for time.
So. Yeah, like once you do that, or once you quote unquote make it, like I guess that's when you have to put limitations on what your projects are.
Yeah.
Like even Dave is just like, I don't have time to do these streams, and then people give him like a shit ton of money, and he's like, guys, it's 1:00 in the morning. I need to go to bed.
Yeah. Our friend Martin had a kid recently.
Yes, he did. Congratulations to Martin and on your on your child. Like what a win! What a win!
Like the TRS, they've had some takes that were pretty like eyebrow raising about Muslims and Palestinians, but I have no connection to TRS and I have no hate towards them, and even there are guys on there that had a lot of good points, and I'm a friend to all peoples, except for certain people that have wronged me. I have no hate towards it. I believe Eric Stryker called me an artard once, but that was funny. It was funny. No, I got nothing against Eric Stryker either, even though he called me a tard. It was over the trucker thing. That was funny, though. I don't know. Like, I can't hate someone. It's like what Nietzsche said about people with resentment, that the man who can forget is probably the best soul because he forgets the slights that people say against him. But I don't know.
It's what makes a good confessor if they don't remember either.
You know what? I think like what it is that like when, like, for example, Striker, you called me a tar, who cares, right? It's like, I have nothing against it, but like, there's other people that like, they go out of their way to like, I'm not going to drag up old rivalries, let's move beyond that. Let's end on a good note.
Yeah.
But one thing I will say though, is that I'll always defend Borzy because like I've told this story a million times, but he personally squashed a beef with me. You know what I mean? He personally went out of his way on a public forum that I believe has been nuked so far because that one person who did the stream left. But he publicly reached out to me and he said, "I'm sorry, Gio." And I will always, that is a mark of a true man, is to forgive the, beefs and to, in a very public way. This is the problem, I think, with not just the E-Right, but especially the E-Right, but in internet communities in general, is it is so impossible to say that you were sorry, that you were wrong. It's so impossible to say that you're wrong, and I think that's a big problem because there's a brand ego that must be maintained.
Yeah.
So I think like when someone does have and I've said it publicly as well, I've been wrong about certain people. That Zoomer Theosis guy, I was wrong to publicly airhole him, and I've apologized. And there's other people too that I may be wrong about. But you know who I wasn't wrong about? Campbot. No, I'm kidding. That's not true.
Well,
Laugh. No, I'm kidding. Let's not go through all beefs. Anyways, all of our links are in the description. My Patreon. I just released the Marty Phillips episode. Great episode. The full thing is 3 hours long, but of course the majority of it, 2.5 hours, is public. So go and watch that. It's both on Patreon and Substack, and of course Prudentialist's links is down in the description. Subscribe star. He just did his book club on was it Living in an Empire? What's it called?
No, we just had The Myth of Religious Violence is
Myth of Religious Violence. That's a great book, by the way.
It's a really good book. Plus, I have a new Substack out, Marshall McLuhan's War. It's sort of more or less my fleshed out take on how this war is currently going, although I do fear it will escalate based on the news. On top of that, I'll be on the Old Glory Club's Pony Express Radio later this afternoon. We're going to cover the war more. Our friend Hunger, who's in Lebanon, will be tuning in as well, or actually on the air to give us some takes. And then on top of that, I just continue to follow us both on Twitter, YouTube, Substack, Subscribestar, Patreon,
Telegram too. I need more Telegram subs.
So. There you go, more Telegram.
Giant followers. Productions, and Telegram. And for $2 by Bolero, John McNaughton stream 2. Maybe if John McNaughton keeps posting coal, I probably will do another.
There you go.
Art criticism stream on him. And a special thank you to Patrick Kehoe, our good friend. That was an amazing gift. Thank you so much. And are we going to do a Halloween episode soon?
Sure, I guess.
Maybe.
What
come on, Moose. Don't apologize. No, listen, let me one last thing before we go. Don't apologize, Moose, because I realized that my old man edits all my articles. Then I'm going to have to pay an editor for my book. I'm going to probably pay my friend Chinglican. I actually do have a lot of problems writing, but like
he's an old dad.
But the thing is, like, it was at the end of one particular chapter on the global airport, so it's like it's out of context. But I probably will, for all of my patrons, I will start posting chapters as they get edited soon. So I still have a ways to write because now a 300-page book's turning into a 400-page book. So hopefully by the early next year, it'll be all edited. And Prudentialist is going to do the audiobook, so he's going to have to read 400 pages of me and my 3-cell scribbling. So we'll see what happens.
It'll be as professional as humanly possible.
There's going to be a Bulgarian edit of it by next year on LibGen. So,
You're absolutely right, and it'll be shared by Landshark.
Yeah. So, anyways, I this is why I've been spotty with the content-minded episodes, because balancing Digital Archipelago, balancing the computer room with Catherine D, and balancing my own podcast has been quite a feat. And I still have to go back to painting. By the end of the year, I want to go back to painting. So, by the way, new episode of the Computer Room is also out with myself, me and Catherine D. We talk about the Milady article, and we just recorded one about the film Hard Candy and the 2000s Chris Hansen thing. So it's pretty good content. I need to get stream. What's it called? Stream Elements.
Oh,
Entropy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So exactly. If it's going to be magnum opus, it's going to be a tome. So, thank you all. Oh, for $2. It's all over by Jack. Thank you, Jack. It's all over.
Yeah, it looks like it's happening, kids.
It looks like it's happening, kids. Do I have any PayPal donations? I do not. So, anyways, thank you. Love you guys. Hopefully, pray to God this gets doesn't get demonetized. What a stream, Prude. We covered it. We did it.
We pissed off
solved
everybody.
Israel-Palestine. We solved it. We pissed off everybody. We pissed off the right, pissed off the left. There you go.
No one was going to be happy.
Nope.
And here we are.
Oh, man. All right. God bless. Goodbye. Too sweet.
See you, gents.